You know,
being here. What's up?
I was thinking about something.
What are we thinking about, bro?
I was thinking about what's going on in the earth, right?
What's happening in our minds?
Yeah, and I wondered, why does it matter?
We're about to find out.
Holy shit. Ready?
Just kidding.
Welcome to Earth, Mind, and Matter. We said, fuck it, let's talk about albums. We said, let's talk about some movies and some fucking comics. This week in the universe, across the internet.
So what's up, Javi?
What's going on, Frankie? Hold on.
Well,
I need water. No, keep going. Did I make it?
Good, you're good. Hey,
I made it.
You made it just in time.
I made it.
Photo finish. He for those who are listening right now, the episode just started. Javi just ran across the bridge just to make it on time for the show.
I was on the phone. I was like, Frankie, just start it. I'll make it on time. I'll be right there.
I started the intro music, and then Javi's just, and he's here.
It just burst it through the door like Kool-Aid Man. I said, hey.
Yeah, even though there's a fucking mountain of debris over there, he made it in time, yo. So
I'll clean it up later. That's fine.
Nice. Anyway, so we're back here. What's the day?
You tell me. You're the one. Oh wait, it's the 20th. I know that.
The 20th of May, 2022. And what are we doing here today, Javi?
We're on the Earth.
This is what's in our mind.
And this is why it matters.
This is Earth, Mind, and Matter.
Welcome back to the show, folks.
Welcome back to the show. We just seen each other this week. We're shooting a little two and one.
Yeah,
2 and 1.
pretty much. But because you're going on vacay.
Yeah, man, for like a weekend. So I'm going to Salt Lake City. So by 2 weeks from now, this will be the episode that little heads up, right? If we talk about stuff.
This will still come out on Monday. So
Monday?
Yeah. So it'll just kind of be it's kind of normal, to be honest, in terms of our recording times when the episodes come out. So we won't be behind on anything.
Facts. Except the news. I guess there'll be more news. But then, you know what I mean?
Because, well, what's today? Today's Friday.
Friday, 20th.
So, I mean, we're going to be missing news from Saturday and Sunday, but we'll be fine.
Fuck that news. Fuck those news. Unless it's something really major and important.
It's the weekend. Nothing happens on the weekend.
Watch everything happen on the weekend. The 1 week we're gone, everything happens.
Kim Jong-un's going to be like, I heard it's the weekend, motherfucker.
I'm going to take a shit. Oh, get the camera. And so North Korea's getting fucked with COVID, apparently. We got a whole bunch of stuff happening. I wanted to pick a bunch of random topics, but I remember you suggested earlier we should cover a certain news topic, and we are definitely. And yeah, I really wanted to go outwards because there's so much crazy news happening right now.
Yeah.
And then I said, fuck that. There's so much sources for the current news at the moment. So I got a couple topics today. I said I had 2, but I do have 3. Okay. The first one is just a very quick one. I don't know if you heard of it. It's the monkeypox.
The monkeypox.
You ever heard about that? All right, nice. It's just kind of a catchy, trendy thing, but I think it's kind of. Well, I'll talk about it more later. Then we're gonna talk about the Buffalo shooting, of course. Okay. Which happened in Buffalo like last week. It's
Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo, New York, not the animal. And it happened last week, and is like it's considered a hate crime, or close to being so, and it's a crazy news. And then we're gonna talk about the shooting that happened in L.A. In a Presbyterian church that was full of Taiwanese people. Okay. So in the same week, a lot of people died within that time period, which is not unnormal. Chicago and all that stuff. There's a lot of places that experience shootings and deaths. Even Milwaukee had about 13 people shot but not killed, only injured. Oh, wow. And just it's sad. I could have done 7 topics of shootings this week, but we're going to cover these 2 just because they kind of are around the same lines of terribleness, coming from hatred, one selfish person wanting to take it out on a whole bunch of people. And it's not the first time we've talked shootings on the show, for sure. Yeah. So very exciting, positive news.
Yeah, man. I'm just feeling great vibes from this episode.
Seriously, man.
All I'm gonna say beforehand, before we really dive into it, if you got a gun, put that shit away.
Put that shit away.
I don't want to see it.
Unless you're playing like Call of Duty or something like that, then get that shit up and
fuck Call of Duty.
Rainbow Six Vegas. Not Vegas. Oh, that too, but Rainbow Six Siege. Oh, but before anything, and hopefully you're still listening, but we have a social that we want to shout out, so we usually do it at the end of the show. but the algorithm says better at the beginning, right?
I mean, we'll do it at the end too, but
Can't go wrong with both.
Always got to plug our shit.
Yeah, man.
But,
So what are you gonna plug today, Javi?
What am I plugging today? I plugged in a couple outlets. I also plugged in a couple of toys.
Okay, which toys?
I don't know. I'm just pulling out words. I was like, what else do you plug?
Plug in.
Honestly, what else do you plug?
I don't know, man. You ever seen the movie Everywhere at Once, and they plug up their asshole?
Everywhere at once.
EEW.
It's everywhere. You get me forgetting the fucking title now. Everything everywhere all at once.
All at once and everything, right?
Yeah.
Remember the scene where he plugs his asshole?
Yeah.
So that toys.
You know what? I should have said that. I was plugging a couple of assholes.
For the ass eating competition that we have.
Yeah.
Coming soon. On Christmas, right?
Because the plug that we use is a twofold. So it's also a cleaner. So, because, since it's an ass eating competition, it's going to get messy. It's going to get dirty. Messy. So it's just,
two birds.
In and out. And it's nice and clean.
If you want to join our ass eating competition, it's ages 60 to 76. Please come.
We are very strict about those numbers.
Anybody younger, please don't even. If you don't got that much wrinkles, just please stay home. Your grandmothers and grandfathers more than welcome, right?
I want your skin to look like a bad painting of the desert. I just want to see lines and just pale and just fucking
nasty
skin. What do you call them?
Deteriorating.
Like, skin deteriorating and just like skin fragments. That's what I want to see at that ass eating competition.
This episode is sponsored by Sandy Shores Retirement Home.
Nice.
Sandy Shores Retirement Home. So they entrust us with the old people and vice versa.
So if you're trying to get rid of your old people, know who to hit up.
60 to 76 years old only though. Anything else? Just we're gonna ask IDs and everything. At baseball games they ID everybody, right? So if you go to a baseball game, I'll go and they'll ID me. I'll be like, oh, thank you. Take it as a compliment. But then somebody who looks like they're basically dead, like just walking death, they'll go up to get a beer or something, and they have to get ID'd, which I think is crazy, because if I'm like about to die, the last thing I want to do is get ID'd or forget my ID or something. But I think they do that because of movies like Bad Grandpa, when Johnny Knoxville dresses up like Grandpa. But who will go that far?
I don't know, man. People go that far on the internet.
Yeah. Just fucking 20 hours worth of makeup, like Passion of the Christ makeup, just to get one $16 beer at a baseball game.
People are crazy. I would believe it.
People be crazy. Well, yeah, I don't know. Fuck that, man. If you're that old, we shouldn't even be charging for beer, to be honest with you.
If you're that old, please come to the ass eating competition. Just one last time, I got to plug that.
DM us personally, individually,
But what I will say seriously though, what we also like to do on the social.
We never even shout out the show. we got so lost in ass eating. Wait, the social is Instagram and they're all the same thing, right?
Yeah, Instagram and TikTok at the moment.
Earth Mind Matter Pod.
Yeah, and we do supplementaries on the social.
We do.
So anything that we talk about, we'll have like pictures or notes, just like any corrections or side facts or things like that.
Little fun things.
Just little things in there. So it's like if you're listening to this, be like, oh, let me check out the supplementary while I'm listening, and kind of listen through and whatever.
And it's also every week we do that, and then we have the YouTube channel, which is Earth, Mind, and Matter.
Yes, right? Where it started off as just the A.M.C. section, but now we're doing our full episodes on there too. Yes, sir. So if you want to get the visuals, if you want to see our ugly mugs, that's going to be the best way.
If you want to see the moneymakers.
I said ugly mugs, Frankie. Let's leave it at that.
If you want to see the moneymakers, even though we do an audio podcast, please come look at our faces. That's all we ask. Come look at our faces.
But I think that's the right amount of plugging. Any further, and then we'll just sound like assholes
the whole time. So anyway, our first news topic is our social media. Second topic is our personal Instagrams and stuff. Yeah, fuck that.
I just saw an ad thing for I don't know if you know Rooster Teeth.
Yes.
I'm huge fans of Rooster Teeth, and they have this convention every year called RTX.
Okay.
And they just did an ad for RTX where they had one of them have an electric collar on, and so they had to read the ad read while getting shocked. And I was like, what a fun way to do an ad read.
But is it like a bark collar? Like when you bark and you get shocked? Or
no, they had like a controller. So it's just like the guy's just kind of like, yeah, come down to RTX and And it's just, they were like, you got to do a clean take. We need a clean take.
We should do that, but while somebody's performing open heart surgery on us. You know,
that'd be so dope.
That's like taking it a step above them.
Yeah.
You know, just because we got to outdo the competition.
We need Doc Strange for that.
And American Chavez. Right? That's her name?
Yeah.
Let's go. And Lex Luthor. Fucking, yeah, bro. You didn't work for them, but you interviewed somebody from Rooster Teeth, no? Or Red vs. Blue?
I from Achievement Hunter, which is a part of Rooster Teeth.
Yeah.
But I interviewed Jeff Ramsey of Rooster Teeth.
And why'd you interview them?
Achievement Hunter, they had this one series called Schooled where they basically teamed up with like a kid. Like each of them would team up with one kid, and that was a team. And they just went through competitions where they were both physical and video game based.
And at the end, they're like, "You got school."
I mean, pretty much, because it's I think it was charity based if I remember correctly. But I did an interview because they were really promoting the second season of that, and so originally I was supposed to interview all of Achievement Hunter, but it just ended up being Jeff. But I was just as happy with that because Jeff is the founder of Achievement Hunter and he's one of the co-founders of Rooster Teeth. So it's like to talk to a legend like that, I'm like, hey.
And then I think you said that like your professor at the time was like, does anybody know who Rooster Teeth is or Achievement Hunter is?
Oh, it was for an internship.
There we go.
Because they were just like, oh yeah, we also have an interview spot for this YouTube group called Achievement Hunter. Does anyone know them?
And you were like, yeah, bro, what the fuck?
Yeah, me and some other guy were like, yeah. And so me and the other guy did the phone call with Jeff, and then I wrote up everything, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's a dope experience, man. And I feel like, fuck it, man, just somebody out there is gonna want to do that and be like thirsty for it, like respectfully thirsty, you know?
Yeah.
So quench your thirst, bro.
Now enough plugging. Let's get on with the show.
We're here with the show. We're gonna talk about a couple of things, which is what's one more than couple? Several? A few? Does that mean three?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
No way. We're gonna talk about a few things then. So let's talk about the monkeypox, right?
Okay.
So the monkeypox is, to me, the reason I want to bring it up so quickly, like just, is because I feel that now we're in an age of news where anything disease related is always going to be either blown out of proportion or, you know, we're going to keep an eye on it, right? Because COVID obviously
just highly focused.
And even like if you're just walking around and you sneeze, you know, if you don't have a mask on, everybody's going to be like, yo, that guy's going to kill us all, you know? So it's a new way of looking at life, and how masks, I don't think they're going away anytime soon, right? Some people just wear them because they're like, you know, people didn't do their face in the morning, or they just want to stay away from anything nasty. And so when I saw monkeypox, I kind of see it as clickbait and headline stuff, right?
Okay.
But it is a thing, and it's not just a new emerging thing. It's something that was found, like they discussed it on Friday, right? The World Health Organization. And because there's been an outbreak of monkeypox, there were about 100 cases confirmed or suspected in Europe, right? And in Europe, the countries that have these infections are Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, and the United Kingdom.
Man, that's a lot.
That's a lot of fucking places, right?
That's like the whole Europe.
Yeah, and outside of Europe, we have it in the US, Canada, and Australia.
Oh, wow.
And right here in Bellevue Hospital, right now they're doing a lot of testing for this one patient that could be a possible case in New York City. So yeah, bro, shit is getting close to us at least. And so the disease was first identified in monkeys. I don't know if you could tell from the name.
You know, it was either that
or snails
or gorilla dicks.
Either way, there's no yes or no. You know, there's only...
it was one of those two. It had to be that or gorilla dicks.
Yeah. And to me, again, this has traces of like Delta, Omicron, all these other things, even though that's one part of COVID, right? That's just, you know, right? Delta and Omicron are part of COVID. So this is a whole different thing. And I wish I had read this article earlier. I didn't though, but this is a read that I do want to update on the future. I guess I'm just throwing it out there because of this.
Okay.
I'm relating monkeypox to COVID in a sense, as you'll see later on, just because we have this mindset of all the diseases. But I saw something and it said Russia and Ukraine does not equal Taiwan and China because of what's happening between both countries, or all four countries, or if you could refer to Taiwan as a country, is an interesting situation, right? That I'll bring up later. But right now we have this COVID and monkeypox thing, which seem like they're part of the same thing, but they're different diseases. That's why I bring up the connection and stuff.
You know, apples to apples.
Yeah, basically. Fucking, and yeah, so monkeypox is a mild viral illness. And you have it if you have symptoms of fever and a distinctive bumpy rash. So you kind of scratch yourself like a monkey. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, honestly though.
Yeah, right. But I mean, they do come from monkeys too. So that's, And as of now, because of the confirmed cases throughout Europe and stuff, it's the largest and most widespread outbreak of monkeypox ever seen in Europe. Right? Beforehand, it was a certain amount that I bring up right now. And in Germany, again, the first case was found on Friday. So it's not likely that it'll last long. It's not projected to be as big as, COVID or anything like that. It just has a very catchy first name title. You think monkeypox, you're like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
And
that just even thinking about sort of comparing monkeypox to COVID just kind of makes me think of the fact just of people making those correlations makes me think of that game Plague Incorporated.
Plague Incorporated. Why does that sound so familiar?
It started off as a mobile game, but you can play it on anything now. Okay. I think it might be on consoles. I'm wrong.
Among Us and shit. The same way you could play Among Us.
Yeah. But it's just a game where you create your own virus and you see how quickly you can kill the world. This game was made years and years ago. Okay. It was before COVID. So when COVID first broke out, sales in that game rose up like crazy.
That's dope. I mean, I know when COVID was out, there's a whole bunch of video games. There was even a theory that it was foretold in a video game because there was a disease called COVID in the game, and this and that. But COVID has always been around, right? Or isn't a weird thing like that? How?
I don't know.
I have no idea either. Or traces of the type of disease, but I think we're just talking out of ass at that point. Because
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. But
or SARS, because it was called COVID SARS something when you look it up on the test. So it's just weird, but I have no idea what that is. Before Wuhan and all that shit. So again, people are saying that it's unlikely that it'll grow out of proportion, and it can be isolated. You can isolate the people that are sick and find out where it came from with contact tracing. And there's already drugs and effective vaccines that can be used, right? The vaccines that are used to eradicate smallpox are up to 85% effective against monkeypox. So, that shit might help out a little bit. But since 1970, monkeypox cases have been reported in 11 African countries. And the largest outbreak that Nigeria has had hasn't been since 2017. And this year there's 46 suspected cases, and then 15 have been confirmed. So there's a bunch of suspected cases. This is the one in particular for Africa. There's only 15 that are confirmed, right?
Okay.
And so, again, the reason for me, I just feel like a lot of people are curious and saw what monkeypox was. They were like, what the fuck is that? And do we have to worry about that? I don't think we have to worry about it so much. I just don't think it's interesting.
Wait, so how do people get it?
Oh, perfect right here. So there's two little theories. One, they think it's sexually transmitted, and the other way they think it's through just contact, right? Now, that's why it gets kind of iffy to say how it comes from. Because
wait, but I mean, sexual is already contact.
Exactly. So that's perfect. The professor of virology at King's College in London, he says this: sexual contact by definition is close contact. His name is Stuart Neal. So he says the idea that there's some sort of sexual transmission in this is a little bit of a stretch. So he doesn't think that, which you're absolutely right. That's why I kind of said it. And it sounds like I'm saying the same thing over again.
Tautology.
Tautology, bro. Sponsored by Tautology. But what the WHO says, the World Health Organization, they say that there's 3 reasons as to why I think it's sexually transmitted. All but one have no relevant, the people who have it, no relevant travel history to areas where monkeypox is endemic. And most people are being detected to have monkeypox through sexual health services. And among men who have sex with men, and the wide geographic spread across Europe and beyond suggests that transmission may have been going on for some time, right? So in Britain, there's 20 cases that have been confirmed by the UK Health Security Agency. And the people that have had the monkeypox are predominantly men who identify as gay, bisexual, or men who have sex with other men. And then the 14 cases in Portugal were all detected in sexual health clinics, where men aged between 20 and 40 self-identified as gay, bisexual, or men who have sex with other men. And so that's why they're contributing all that stuff to like sexuality and everything.
Yeah.
But then in Spain, there's 23 cases that were found within a sauna. So there's this like weird happening with what in reality. Why are people who are gay, bisexual, or have sex with other men, why are they getting found with that? And then why in the sauna? You know, unless somebody's dirty ass went into the sauna with monkeypox, they don't know.
Or unless they're fucking in the sauna
too.
Like, honestly,
that makes a lot more sense. I didn't think about that. So that's essentially pretty much the news with monkeypox, outside of the one they found in New York City, which again they're in isolation at Bellevue Hospital. That would suck to be somebody, you know, the only person in fucking New York City. But he arrived to the hospital on Thursday.
You know, if I'm ever a patient zero, I don't ever want to know I'm patient zero. I don't want to live with that.
Just turn around and just shoot you back in the head. You'll never know.
Like
some of mice and men shit.
That'd be such a shitty feeling of like, I started this. Yeah. This is my fault. It's like the South Park pandemic special.
Yeah. I never watched it. I didn't watch it.
Oh, you never watched it?
I kind of stopped watching South Park when it gets further into the modern seasons. It doesn't stop being funny. I just love the old episodes so much that I kind of always rewatch
I've never like watched it like religiously or anything like that. I've only ever watched like episodes here and there and things like that. I've watched a lot of the classics. I've seen some of the modern stuff.
Got you.
But I thought the pandemic special was great.
Yeah.
But there's a whole like thread in it where Randy finds out that he is the reason why COVID started. So he's trying to like cover his tracks as much as possible, and it's the dumbest thing ever. And like they have like a nice, like a funny little moment where the TV turns on and it's a news and it's like, oh, we might have found out like where COVID might have come from and whatever. And Randy freaks out. He's like, what? No. And he takes a remote from Sharon. He's like, he starts turning off the TV. He's like, God, why are you trying to watch the news about this stuff? Like, God, why are you trying to say it's from China? That's just racist. And it's just so fucking dumb, but it's a really good special.
There's several ones. I mean, I just love that show. But one of the things I've seen recently on South Park was when they were kind of coming at people who eat meat and vegans, right, in the school, and how everybody is turning PC and wants to be a vegetarian and a vegan. So they want to change the menu to a vegan menu for the students, but they can't because it's offensive to Cartman because he's fat and all he wants to do is eat meat or something. And so, you know, this and that, the episode comes to an end and they make all the food vegan. And Cartman basically looks at the food and he says, wait, this tastes great. And he's like, hold on. Oh, I see what you guys want. It's not that you guys don't want to eat meat. It's that you want to feel better about yourselves while not eating meat, but basically eating the same, you know, sugar-filled, sodium-filled replacement vegan foods. He's like, I don't hate that. You know, I'm really for that. Because it's true. This is a long time ago, but when like they were just starting to announce Impossible Burgers and stuff, like when it was just a YouTube video, before any chain had it in mainstream, they would show how it would be made. They can make chicken out of, it can make anything out of just the product of vegetables and stuff, make it look like a burger or whatever. And they said one of the problems that'll come out of this is the quality of the Impossible meat. You know, you may be replacing a piece of steak for this, but how much sodium is in a lot of Impossible burgers and all that stuff, and how much like sugar or this or that. I think it's to be considered, and so I don't think people are, you know, and I don't know, like I'm not trying to come at either side. I just think it's just funny how like you'll give up one thing, but what if you're just doing yourself dirtier by giving it up? And then you see that guy that I sent you videos of eating the raw meat.
Disgusting, man.
This guy, what is it? Raw meat experiment on Instagram. Love those videos. He
Disgusting.
Just will go to to eat a packet of ground beef just out the packet with raw milk. Like they actually call it raw milk and yeah, bro, that's disgusting.
You know, just today at work, a customer was gonna order our vegan patty, and they asked me, they were like, "Can I just get the patty only?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, so like you don't want like the cheese or the bread?" She was like, "No, I don't want any of that." And I was like, "I mean, okay, sure, whatever." And she was like, "But what's the price on that?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And she was like, is there a price difference? I'm like, no, it's still the same price. And she was like, never mind. And I was like, what? Were you trying to pay less for a vegan patty?
Give me the patty.
Like,
I mean, just the patty. Just give me the patty.
I was like, okay, lady, like, whatever. You do you.
Yeah. And like, why? Why would you, like, you know, were you okay with eating the egg in the first place? You just wanted to save a buck or two? First of all, you're not fucking expensive ass coffee shop, regardless. Nah, I don't know. People are dumb. And yeah, not vegans though. Not all vegans. Just the ones that don't eat meat. Oh,
damn.
Nah, meat is delicious. And then when you think of eating like a raw steak, if you eat fish that's raw, it's the same shit, right? I guess.
Well, I mean, that's why we have like pescatarians, right?
Mm-hmm. They'll eat. My friend was a pescatarian once.
So, you know, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, honestly, I don't give a fuck.
Your body, your choice. Yeah. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, that's what Roe vs. Wade is about.
Okay.
Vegans.
Okay.
That's what was that lady? Ginsburg? That's what she fought for.
Wait, is it Gettysburg?
Ruth Ginsburg?
Oh, yes.
Gettysburg Address.
I was like, who? I couldn't remember.
The Gettysburg Address is a presidential address. I asked my friend of mine once, I was like, hey man, what's your favorite presidential address? And he's like, Gettysburg. I was like, what the fuck is that? He's like, it's a presidential address. I was like, man, I didn't even know that.
I'm awful with history, so just a lot of this, I'm just like,
fuck it, right? Well, let me tell you, the Gettysburg Address is a speech delivered in 1863 by U.S. President Abraham Lincoln as a dedication. The goat. Who had slaves? He had slaves.
Hey, whoa. We don't like to talk about that, Frankie. Okay? Yeah. Abraham Lincoln is my favorite president. Elon Musk is my favorite corporate person.
Diabolic. And Jeff Bezos is just the principal figure of life, right?
He's like
the North Star.
Sometimes when I read the Bible at night before I go to sleep, upside down, I'm like, is this about Jeff Bezos? This is so much like him.
Yeah, he's my screensaver. But the back of his head.
Oh,
because he's always going forward, you know?
So, but why do you want to be behind him?
Because he's always going forward.
but because for me, I have a picture of the side of his face.
Okay, why you want to be on the side? He's going right?
Because I'm always on his left. I'm always there right with him.
Right next to his shoulder. I'm always there behind him.
I mean, but why would you want to be behind him?
Just in case you fall backwards. Trust fall. Trust fall. Who you going to trust? I don't know, man. I guess we'll leave it up to him.
It's a little Ayo if you ask me, but, you know.
Monkeypox. That's all I'm going to say. But that's pretty much the gist with monkeypox. I mean, are you terrified, petrified, amazed?
I mean, it's more so, like, for me, it's just kind of like knowing that this has been a thing for quite a while.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that this isn't, like, super brand new is puts me more at ease because it's like, okay, if it's been around for a while, we have some kind of knowledge or, like, some way to sort of combat it.
Yeah.
Like what you mentioned.
The smallpox.
Yeah. So, knowing that we do have ways to combat and things like that, I'm not necessarily like concerned about it. Is it even deadly at all?
I don't think it's deadly. Nobody's been reported to have died, and they actually say that it's believed. This is New York Times regarding the New York patient, the possible New York patient, that it also may have begun with the importation of infected squirrels and other rodents from Ghana. So they turn into what's up, bro?
My brother just came in.
Talk about monkeypox. And they also infected prairie dogs that were subsequently sold as pets. So again, like kind of Wuhan bat COVID stuff. This is squirrels. Why would you import some squirrels though? What the fuck? And
taxidermy, maybe.
That's true.
That's just like the first thing that came to mind.
Just the park's lack thereof. And yeah, but it's pretty much the bumps with like pus and the blisters that crust over. Again, it can be treated with the antiviral drug, also the smallpox one. And I'm just talking about this so casually, like it's not like a disease, but it is, you know.
I mean, how do scientists talk about it?
They're like, hey.
Well, I think sometimes like people think that science is supposed to be super exciting, but you know, that's just because of like movies and stuff. Yeah. You know, if you find science that exciting, good for you.
I never thought about it. what is the true tone of talking diseases, right?
Yeah,
they're just like, hey, what's up?
It's like scientists aren't in a lab right now like, dear God, we need to find the origin of this. Oh my God.
Damn it, Kelly.
Like, none of that's actually happening, I don't think. Like, I'm sure it's just a lot more like, oh, fuck. Monkeypox again.
Maybe the one scientist working with monkeys is just looking around and shit. He's like, fuck.
He's like, do I gotta get rid of them, guys?
and that's how they think. How I don't know how true this is, but what have you heard on how AIDS have started?
How AIDS started? I mean, mostly that it was just kind of like from like gay people, and it was almost kind of like its own pandemic.
Okay, because that was that's like a stigma they put on gay people, like with AIDS and everything. And this is either what it is. It's either, I've always heard that a scientist was either working with monkeys and like had lesions or like cuts on his hand, and then got monkey blood on him, right? So it's either that there was bitten by a monkey, scratched by a monkey with cuts on both sides to transfer it, that they ate the monkey, or that they fucked the monkey. There's no, or that people before that hunted monkeys like in the woods or in the forest, whatever they reside. While hunting them and then cutting them open, they would also get the blood inside their hands. And then it was just affiliated with like the homosexual community and stuff like that. And it's a weird thing.
You know, I mean, I also think about Planet of the Apes.
I never watched it.
They're so good. I've watched all of the originals, and the new trilogy is I think really good.
Who did it better though, original or newer? Or is it just depends?
I think they're just kind of different flavors because the originals, because of the year they were made in, especially like as they get on, they become more campier. And like they get weirder with each one. Like at some point they start time traveling in the OG ones, and it's kind of ridiculous, but you just kind of go with the flow. Yeah. But the new trilogy, it's a lot more grounded. It's a lot more realistic. Yeah. So it's like
realistic with monkeys. Hey.
I mean,
no, you're not.
Yeah. With what they try and do, because in the first movie especially, that's how you get to see how it starts. Because in the originals, you don't ever watch the origin of it. You're just kind of thrown in like years after it's happened. Because in the original, it follows these astronauts that go into space, and then by the time they come back, because they've been in cryosleep and things like that, Earth has progressed so much that by the time they get to Earth, the apes have already taken over the planet. Okay. So we don't see any of the origin stuff. So the new trilogy does that.
It focuses on the origin.
Yeah. So you see sort of the scientific side of everything, where what's his face? James Franco's character.
He plays a monkey? No, stop.
That's Andy Serkis, actually.
I had no idea.
Yeah, Andy Serkis does a lot of motion capture for movies. Okay. But you see the science side of it, of like how the experimentations on the monkeys to make them as they are is what causes the same virus that kills humans. Gotcha. Because in the original, humans have devolved; they can't speak anymore and things like that.
So they just grunt and everything. They just or make noises and stuff.
Yeah, they're their own animals at that point. So.
Would the newer ones be a prequel then to the old ones?
Pretty much.
Oh, nice. That's pretty cool. So you kind of can't disrespect the old ones. You kind of just add on to it. Yeah. Clever. That's quite clever shit, actually. I seen Argo the other day. Okay. Never seen that movie?
Argo. Is that the Ben Affleck one?
Yes. I was going to say Brad Pitt. Yes, Ben Affleck.
Have I seen Argo? Oh, man.
It's a good movie, man. It's a good movie.
Is that the one about they have to do the fake movie or something?
Yeah. So okay. It's I don't if you haven't seen it, definitely we're gonna do it on this podcast for sure. Just because I saw that if I'm not mistaken, I saw that movie in the theater in Sunnyside. Okay. Where they used to be like $5 tickets on Tuesdays, a small screen and everything. People would joke and say they have bed bugs. I don't give a fuck. That's a good ass theater, bro. Cheapest theater you'll go to, and
that's why they have bed bugs.
Straight up. And I walked into that movie. There's a lot of movies that I watch at random. I also saw the X-Men Origin with I want to say Logan Paul. What's his name? Logan, right? Is his actual name?
The character's name is Logan, but the actor is Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman. But you know where there's a trailer where he popped out the tank of water. He's like, just screaming in front of the camera.
I don't remember.
It was like a newer one before
like
Logan.
X-Men Origins Wolverine, that movie, I like don't think about that movie. I've met people where I commit to not thinking that I know that movie.
Because I saw that movie at random, and I remember that scene and kind of like the beginning with some like green person. But yeah, it wasn't really a memorable movie. Whatever, just that major beehole right here. But I'm watching Argo and I'm like, yo, holy shit, this is a great ass movie. So obviously it's based on a true story, and they get out of their hostages that have to get out, and the only way to get them out is through certain scenarios. And Ben Affleck, who plays something Tellez, the actual guy who got the people out, he was watching Planet of the Apes on old school TV.
Nice.
It's a cool TV, and that's a cool TV, cool movie. Also cool TV because it's throwback. But I bring it up just because I know that movie's pretty, planted into movie history.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to check it out one day and shit.
I mean, I remember I actually referenced that movie once in class, in college, and I was thinking about it in my head because we were reading Frankenstein, and it was like the third time that I had read this book. So I was just making a lot more connections, and I made a connection to Planet of the Apes and Frankenstein, and I was thinking in my head, and I was like, is the professor just gonna think I'm a fucking nerd for this? Like, is he like, what is he gonna say to this? And so I was like, I'm gonna try and keep it as general as possible. So I was like, yeah, the way that they treat the monsters a lot, how they treat the main character in Planet of the Apes because of this and that. And my professor goes, yeah, because Taylor, he says the character's name from Planet of the Apes. And I was like, and the professor's like, yeah, because this and that and whatever. And I was like, holy shit.
Then you and the professor just float towards each other with one hand out. And the sparkle comes behind you guys.
For the rest of the semester, I would just make like classic old movie references and things like that, and he would just know them.
That's awesome.
I'm like, yo, this professor fucking rules.
That's dope. I feel like that's important, man. I feel like you can learn so much from, I mean, even look at that, like how Russians are treating Ukrainians, or how anybody treats anybody in terms of negativity or like less than. I mean, that message can be transferred. I'm sure much more unique in the movies sense, but I think it's good. I think movies teach so much lessons that you never really understand,
Without a doubt.
Like at the end of Argo, when they got out, bro, me and Beatrice were like crying, bro. she turned around and she was like, I've never felt so patriotic in my whole goddamn life. I was like, God bless America. Because I was like, dead ass. This would be a crazy situation to be in, to be held hostage and pretty much gonna die if you don't get out. Raise my flag. Last thing, I saw a dealership with flags on the side.
Okay.
You know how dealerships usually have American flags just to sell shit because patriotism. And then I saw a dealership with like tore up flags. Like this, it looks like the flag's been through war. I'm like, the fuck happened to your flags, bro? Like, why your shits look crazy?
They get them off the battlegrounds.
That's what I thought. I was like, maybe they actually did get them off the battlegrounds because then you could tell a better story, or they just don't take good care of their flags,
or that.
You don't know, but that shit threw me off, bro. I was looking, I was like, what the fuck? Fix your flags, motherfucker.
Bum ass.
All right, so pretty much that's monkeypox. Shout out to the monkeys and the pox. And so the next story, obviously the Buffalo shooting is the one that's gotten the most attention, as it should. It's a terrible thing. I don't think one crime is worse than the other or more popular than the other. I just think that this one is definitely, especially with the state of the world and like just Black Lives Matter, everything, racism that's always happening in the United States. That's a huge issue, and we'll get to that last. Not because of best for last or nothing, just because whatever. But the second story I want to talk about is the shooting that happened in California. Okay. Now, I'll say this. I do think bringing up the shooting that we do treat certain things much more important than the other, right? Like now, this is a case where a white shooter has shot a bunch of black people because in the name of like racism and all that stuff. And of course, it's going to get a lot of attention. It's something that's huge and constantly happening in America. And it's not just people with guns. It's cops held with the responsibility to take care of people, and they do it too. It's other adults and children that when they're white, they shoot people and they don't get injured at all. But a black person will be walking around following the law. And just because they're suspected of being a dangerous person, they'll get shot. And Dylan Roof can shoot somebody and get Burger King afterwards. It's just that. Or George Zimmerman kills Trayvon Martin and then just is on Twitter like an asshole, talking about it, selling the gun he shot Trayvon Martin with, It's crazy. But now, I bring those up because if you know the names of Ahmaud Arbery and, George Floyd and all that stuff, but I didn't know there was a shooting in California that involved Taiwanese people and a Chinese person, right? Okay. And the reason neither did I. Yeah. So that's why I say it only came up, and the only reason I found it is because of a person named Eddie Wong, which is a chef. He's a director also. He made the movie Boogie. And I mean, he's a great chef, and I think he's from Taiwan, if I'm not mistaken. He's definitely Asian. And I saw him post on his Instagram, and he wrote this. He wrote, "I haven't been talking politics. I haven't been talking about a lot of politics the last few years because the conversation really fucking sucks, to be honest. And I think there are too many people profiting on, quote unquote, conversating. But really, it hit me today how shitty Asian representation is in America. This is a big deal, and no one is saying much." He says, "I'm not religious, and I don't take a side on the issue of Taiwan's status as a country because both sides use it to manipulate people. If you are pro-independence, you are basically pro-American foreign policy, which is really exploitative of all developing countries. If you are pro-unification with China, then you are kind of an anti-native Taiwanese. It sucks to be an island that others want to use as a pawn. We really have no power. But no one should be shooting up a church because they disagree. I never thought I'd see this, but there is a pattern of this in America." Then he brings up Chen Chi Li. And Chen Chi Li, nicknamed King Duck or Dry Duck, was a gangster from Taiwan, best known for heading the United Bamboo Gang. His murder of dissident journalist Henry Liu in Daly City in California in 1984 has been described by the Financial Times as the most prominent example of the, I'm going to say this wrong, Kuomintang's cooperation with gangsters in upholding its dictatorship. And then, now, it's a little lengthy, but this is to go into it. He then continues to write, "On one hand, Dry Duck was the Don Dada and revolutionized the business of Taiwanese gangs. I don't care if you think that's wrong or foul. I respect it. Taiwan has always been a gangster state, but on the other hand, he bodied an academic for speaking his mind, the journalist." Next, he says, "But honestly, the representation we buy into as Asian Americans in this country is bullshit. Our leaders are fucking corrupt our leaders are fucking carpetbaggers who don't know their history and nowhere to be found when shit hits the fan." Lastly, he writes, "If you follow the news, you will see that the Taiwan situation is very similar to Ukraine. There is a disputed territory that a powerful country has a claim to. The U.S. strategically opposes that claim and encourages independence. But will they show up when you need them? They didn't show up for Ukraine. You know?" And what would you say on the United States' presence towards Ukraine? Because I know if they interfered, it would be worse. Like Russia would retaliate more, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why they kind of step out of it, or so they say.
I mean, that's why no one's doing anything really, because they don't want to start another war, a world war or anything like that. But I've definitely have like been conscious of like sort of the, I guess, neglect that the Asian community gets in the United States. Just because in a time where things can be very trendy in like Black Lives Matter, whatever the case is, other things kind of get lost in the noise. Yeah. And you know, I'm not going to say it's wrong or right to support one over the other or whatever the case is. You should support all these things or as much as you can, just because it is important as a person of color, as an immigrant, as a minority. Like, these things are important. Yeah. Because it's what this country was built on.
Yeah. And I mean, it always will be this country's, like, the minorities will be part of the involvement of this country's emergence and ongoingness and all that's forever, because it already has been instilled and stolen, you know, to some extent by white people or this and that. And that's vague to say, but the reason
I'm just thinking about fucking Brian at work. Yeah. He referred to Michael as colonizer. The only white guy on the team. He referred to him as colonizer.
It's true, bro. That privilege is real. and when you consider privilege, I mean, that's ultimately the I guess, what is it, the straw that broke the camel's back and stuff like that. Like, there's just so much things where it's unfair. And my stance on the whole thing is that I think that all groups, you know, are being underlooked because they're either held up against the wall in a certain moment of time. What I'm trying to say is that when a lot of black people are getting killed in a string of months and weeks, there's that frustration that builds up. And then there's the attacks that happen to a bunch of Asian people week after week and all that stuff, and the frustration builds up there. So now we have two different groups that are saying, yeah, we want to look out for everybody, but we also have to look out for ourselves as well, right? And that, I think, creates a lot of tension, where it's like, okay, well, we're standing up for Asians right now. We don't have time to stand up for black people, and all black people are standing up for black people, so we don't have time to stand up for Mexicans or anything, right? But it should be just unionization of it all, right? Maybe if all those groups unionize and say, how about for all minorities, we just work together? I know that sounds kind of dreamland, but think of the Warriors, where the guy said, why are we going to work all together to control 1 or 2 blocks when if we all work together, there's more of us than there are cops in New York City, you know?
It's funny that you reference the Warriors just because, again, at work, another work thing, fucking Joe, he started doing that. I went in to just order that day. I wasn't working that day.
Yeah.
And he was just doing it to our coworker, just fucking with the tongs, just clicking them together, making that noise.
Yeah, bro.
And I was standing there talking to Anna, and I was like, the fuck is that? And I turn over and I see Joe like doing that, like at the corner, like all the way in the back. I'm like,
Javi did it. We saw him.
I was like, that's Joe for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's also such a classic movie, man. Jesus Christ, such a good movie. But I like how that ties into everything, because with that same movie, I recall somebody was talking about the situations, about the fights breaking out in the theaters, and how he was like, oh yeah, blacks and whites shouldn't have to, congregate in the same area, because when you mix up certain like ethnicities and nationalities in the same room, you're bound to get tension. Even though the movie's about, unifying all these gangs that control so little, when together they control so much. So I'm not trying to come at like Black Lives Matter or like Stop Asian Hate or anything. I just think that if we work together, it'd be much easier to fight, all together.
I mean, it's definitely a kumbaya move.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think ego gets in the way more than anything.
Or just still racism between the both. Maybe it could be that like a feminist who wants women to be have more power in the country than men. It's like, are you a feminist, or do you just want your gender to be more powerful than men? Because that doesn't seem equal. That seems more dominant, right? And then there are black people who want reparations, and like, who else gets reparations? Obviously, black people should get reparations, but then there was a panel, a judge panel happening, and they were saying, well, which black people get reparations? Like, how are we going to trace that back? And that's a good question.
The Watchmen TV show on HBO, which is kind of like a sequel to the comic book.
Okay.
And so a lot of time passes in between the comic and the show. And you see that the president in the comic, the guy running for president in the comic becomes president. So in the show, you see that he's doing like his like 5th term or something, because apparently now it's just you can go past 2 terms. And that he brought in reparations for black people, and the main character is black in the show. And one of the kids, a kid in a classroom, like makes a comment about that because she owns like a bakery shop, and so he's like, oh, did you get that money from the reparations or something?
Oh, okay.
And so it's like, even with reparations, there's still tension, because like people are gonna be upset about that.
It's like, you get money, I don't. Like, I thought this is America for all, and that's why I think the conversation is interesting. I mean, you also got to consider if there's black people that don't want that, like don't want to have reparations for that, for the reason, whatever it may be. Maybe some people will look at it like, I'm too prideful to take that, or I'm too this or that, or I don't need that. And I don't know. I think it's a conversation to be had. I think there should be people who represent that cause, and if they make the right argument for it, I mean, we're wasting money as it is. So might as well give that shit away to people who were, But then I think about kids who aren't firsthand affected by it. But I guess if you were a slave in the past, you are always affected by that, right?
I mean, I think just if you're born as a black person, like, you're affected by it.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
there's just so much baggage to it.
For sure. And there's already a disadvantage in terms of the United States, relative to the United States. And it sucks. But yeah, motherfuckers, get your act together and just work together. Like, kumbaya for real, because you don't know how, I mean, numbers are so powerful, to conjoin and really fight together is the scariest thing for white people. The scariest thing. It doesn't happen because there's a lot of problems within. It's like when I think Dominicans and Haitians, and how like Dominicans will look at Haitians and be like, nah. But it's like, what? It's like, motherfucker, just use your brain.
I know I've told you this before, but Fuck that movie In the Heights.
Yes, I fuck that movie. I was saying the same thing the other day, man. Thank you for saying that movie's ass.
They fucking, I'm Dominican and even I'm like, fuck this movie, because this dude having his own little bodega and whatever, and he has the on the wall he has DR like a picture of DR, but it's cropped in by a circle perfectly to block out Haiti. And it's like, okay,
wow,
come on,
no fucking way, really?
Yeah, the circle is kind of like a sigil almost. The circle is just of the DR.
That's crazy.
Like, and you see the rest of the island like going off.
So that has to be on purpose and stuff like that.
Oh, without a doubt. It's just like, let's just focus on DR.
And even if it's just representing how, like, Dominicans do feel, in America and DR too. Like, that's just, don't do that shit. They don't help the cause or nothing. And what is it with DR's Independence Day? That part of it that we're discussing it, right? That what is it? A part of it is to celebrate its non-reliance on Haiti, or what was it?
I don't know myself personally.
It's basically a section of, this is my loose knowledge on it. Then it's basically that with Haiti's help or being away from Haiti, Dominicans celebrated the fact and they embraced the colonism and stuff and whatever. But I would have to check out on that to be sure.
Let me just ask my mom. Hey, Mom! No.
Let me know. And so, yeah, it's an interesting situation. Nonetheless, we still have a lot of tension. I didn't do enough research on the Taiwan and China thing to, like, situation, but as you see here, as Eddie Wong's saying, there's two sides to it: pro-unification or independence. And either way you go, it's either feeding into China or America. There's no true benefit to Taiwan altogether. And this situation is pretty serious. And I just think of John Cena when he apologized to China for calling Taiwan a country.
Okay,
because you can't technically do that, I guess, if you're John Cena and to China. And to get into story, so this happens in Orange County, California. It's particularly a place called Laguna. I don't know if it's Laguna Beach or whatever, but it happened at Geneva Presbyterian Church. Right? Okay. There was a Taiwanese congregation, and they were gathering for a pastor called Billy Chang. Right? There was about 70 people there. Now, the person who committed this crime, his name is David Chow. Right? And they're calling it a politically motivated hate incident involving political tensions between China and Taiwan. But he chose this church completely at random. So.
Or so he says.
So he says. Dun, dun, dun. And he has a bunch of documentation that, like, led to this information being a little more vocal. He had a couple of roommates, David Chow, the shooter. Okay. And the night before the shooting, he stopped by his roommate's house. And he left the... Wait, no, this is a different person.
His roommate's house? That doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense. But no, it was him. He left boxes of ammo, so his own house. Okay. And he's been charged with 1 count of felony murder and 5 counts of felony attempted murder. So he went into the church and intentions to kill everybody in there. He injured an 86-year-old woman and 4 men ranging from 66 to 92 years old. The other person was killed. We'll talk about him in a bit. But his name is Dr. John Cheng. That's the guy who was killed. Okay. He had 2 handguns on him. Apparently, he had 4 explosive devices. And the reason they found the bags with those devices, because there was a gasoline scent that they followed to find those bags. He had 2 9mm handguns that was legally purchased years ago in Las Vegas. And 3 bags containing 4 Molotov cocktail type incendiary devices and extra ammunition. He was 68 years old. He's still alive. He is 68 years old. He immigrated from China to here. But he's a U.S. citizen here, and he's a licensed security guard also.
Oh, wow.
So he drove 4 hours from Las Vegas to come to California and shoot up that church. In the past, he has a very interesting past. His wife had left him and went back to Taiwan, but she was terminally ill with lung cancer. So after his wife left him, he definitely was in a bad state. And his roommate his neighbor said that at one point in his life, he was never the same again, because he was beaten almost to death several years ago. So that, from what? I don't know. And I would assume it has to be also maybe a hate crime towards him or something he put himself in. There's no specificities on that. But that's a crazy thing to endure too. I'm not trying to be like, hey, let's make this guy seem like an angel. But that is something to consider, losing his wife, getting beat almost to death. And that his roommate said that he was a quiet person, that he didn't really say much, you know. But at one point, he said that he felt Chow said that he felt the Taiwanese government was corrupt and disliked how people on the island were sympathetic to their leadership. The roommate said, his neighbor said, that he made himself seem like he was a political refugee from Taiwan and everything. So when he got to the church,
wait, so the roommate was Taiwanese?
Oh no, the neighbor said that the David Chow, the guy who shot everybody, David Chow made himself seem like he was a political refugee. The roommate, yeah,
even though he came from China,
yeah, and the neighbor, oh my bad, sorry. The neighbor also said that he was beaten to death, like a couple years ago. My bad, I'm confusing neighbor roommate, but basically the motherfuckers that live next to him. So he experienced those things, and he made himself seem like he was a political refugee. He hid explosives around the church and chained the door shut. He even put glue on the locks, so nobody was supposed to get out. And because of what he did, he could either face the death penalty or life in jail or prison without the parole. You can't parole at all. Possibility of parole. And the charges that he has, like murder in the first degree, they're eligible for enhancement because it was a personal use of a firearm. And again, it means either death penalty or life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Man, what a weird word to use, enhancement.
Yeah, and there's even this thing where it's like lying in wait or something like that, which if that just makes the punishment more severe, but it is dumb weird, you know? But yeah, the fact that he could face the death penalty is interesting to me because I feel like he should, and that's just my opinion. So the guy that he killed, his name is John Cheng, Dr. John Cheng. Dr. John Cheng was a married father of 2. So he leaves behind his wife and 2 teenage children, which is unfortunate, of course.
Yeah.
You know, he practiced sports medicine, and during the shooting, it's suspected that he helped out the way he did because he was the youngest person in the room. Everybody in the room was in their 60s, 70s. As you saw earlier, somebody was in their 80s, you know. And because of how defensive everybody was, he said, I'm going to tackle this guy. So he tackles the shooter. And when he in the process of tackling him, he gets shot 3 times. So Cheng is dead after that.
Man.
Yeah. And he really found it in himself, not only to be a doctor and like a hero outside of that, but to go up to this guy and tackle him in the just the midst of all that craziness. The thing about Dr. John Cheng is that he hadn't been to that church in months because his father had passed away recently. So it was his first time going back to the church. And he wasn't even part of the church. He was there because his mother was part of the church. So he had taken his mom there after, like, they both haven't been there in a while, and, you know, because of his father and stuff. So he was just a guest. And after he tackled the guy, David Chow, the shooter, is gun jammed, right? So he just can't shoot at the moment. Then the badass pastor, Billy Chong, who's pretty old, if you've seen the video, he goes and hits this motherfucker with a chair.
Damn.
That's crazy. This guy's old, bro. Like, you look at the video, like, he's not like death old, but he's pretty like aged, you know? So he hits him with the chair. I thought that was pretty cool. And, you know, he's asking everybody, like, help out, you know? So everybody gets on top of David Chow. They tie him up and they just put their knees on him, you know? But the shooting has been stopped. But it's thought to believe how much lives were saved because of Dr. John Cheng and Pastor Cheng, you know? So the thing about the pastor is that he spent 2 years in Taiwan during the pandemic. He's also 68 years old, and he was on stage when the shooting began. So he thought that at first it was a toy gun that he took out. Then he realized slowly that it wasn't that. The president spoke out.
Man, isn't that just crazy to think that, like, they're in their 60s and he still thought it was a toy gun?
Yeah,
I think that it's like there's just some sort of human intuition of, like, to just try to not accept it.
The reality of how ugly this is about to get, right?
It's like, why would a grown man walk into a church with a toy gun?
Yeah, man. And like the innocence within us, you know, like we don't expect these things to happen. And I forgot, it was the shooting that happened in Queens or Brooklyn near a school, but they found a bunch of guns outside. And I mean, it's true. Some the mom says very calmly too. The mom or the father, they say that these things happen every day and they don't affect you all the time, but when they do, you know, and we want to make sure this never happens again to anybody else. And you think, like, what were we doing on the day of that, the same exact time of that, you know, like taking a shit, eating a snack, you know, like watching a movie, but at the same time you began that or in the middle of doing something, like this is happening like second for second, you know. And you're right, like just to the point where you see somebody pull something out, you're like, no way. You know, and then you get that standby effect for a couple seconds. You're like, there's no way this is happening right now. When in reality, it is right in front of your face. So the president of Taiwan, her name is Tsai Ing-wen. She tweeted, she also let out a whole message on like the internet or like news. But she tweeted, I want to convey my sincere condolences on the death of Dr. John Cheng and my hopes for a prompt recovery for those injured in the shooting at the Irvine Taiwanese Presbyterian Church in California. Violence is never the answer. Now, before he shot up the church, he had spent time with the churchgoers, like an hour beforehand. So he was like walking around with them and talking with them.
Dr. John Cheng?
No, he was there always. David Chow, the shooter.
Okay.
So he was there trying to familiarize himself with the people. Like, how do you do that? You know, like he just walked in, you know, made himself recognizable, and also probably to lower the suspicion towards him. And yeah, so I mean, I do think it's important to realize that, like, I didn't see any of this on the news, like myself, right? Like I may have seen the notification and moved it away, but in terms of the people like I follow on social media or this or that, I don't see nobody talking about this. After the Eddie Wong thing I saw, it was like one other person, like right afterwards. And then, you know, I'm sure there's more people talking about it, especially people who are Taiwanese affected by that stuff and everything.
Yeah, I mean,
which we're all affected by it, but
because like something I'm just curious about is just kind of like, you know, we're from New York, so we heard about the Buffalo shooting. I want to know, like, across the country, how big of a story this is, and if this shooting is more known in California. If you're local to California, is this more known to you versus the Buffalo shooting?
That's a good question.
Because, like, two guys could be doing a podcast just like this, talking about that shooting, being like, and then there's also a Buffalo shooting.
That's true.
So, especially when they're both revolved around what seems like a hate crime. Yeah. You know, it's a kind of apples to apples tautology again.
That is a good ass point you make. Like literally right across, like opposite of the country, it could be that. I don't know. I just think that it would be more the Buffalo, New York shooter, just because, I mean, there was more deaths. Right, there was way more deaths and stuff. But you're right. We should actually go to California,
because that's just my thought. Because it's like I don't really have, like, I know like maybe two people from California, and I don't even think they live there at the moment. They're just from there. But I don't remember seeing anything on my feed.
That's a good ass question.
So it's just like, I wonder if you knew more people from California, would that have like likely brought it up on your feed at any point? But that's just like a random thought.
Nah, I actually would hope people will reach out to us and say that shit, because it's true. But again, just because of the deaths, I think so. But I still think that this deserves, you know, just as much as attention. But then I think about the Milwaukee thing. When I was doing this research, the Milwaukee thing happened like around the same time. Like all this happened around the same time. And like nobody at all is talking about the Milwaukee shooting, you know, and nobody died in that case. So I guess this is a severity level, you know, but still.
I mean, you know, and just another thing, it's just like the age of the shooter, I'm sure, is a big deal, because it's like, because the Buffalo shooter was like, what, 18, something like that. So it's like, I'm sure that puts a lot more attention, because it's like a child did this, and
or an adult technically, you know, compared to an 18. Well,
because what I was gonna say is that I saw this on my own feed, but like a posting where the alternative press, they, like, someone pointed out how they had referenced two separate shootings where one of them was done by a white kid, the other by a black kid, but they referred to the white kid as a teenager or something like that, like, and then they referred to the black kid as a black man.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the age will tell how terrible media representation of the angry black man and the innocent, you know, white child or youth, you know, like it's terrible.
That I think, you know, definitely that would probably put more focus on the Buffalo shooting, just because of how young the shooter is. And like I guess we just don't care about old people. And
also, I'm not laughing because we don't care about old people. Javi hates old people though.
I was the one that started the ass eating competition
for the elderly.
Oh my god, this fucking guy spreading slander.
We're gonna make our mics into old ass. So when we talk into them, it looks like
I'm just gonna draw
ass.
2 cheeks on my mic, so that way I can give it a kiss and be like, mwah.
Black butts. I don't know, and that, I mean, I think you're right with those things, especially with his ideology referring to Taiwan and its unification or independence. I guess that's also outside of America's, interest in terms of politics.
Mm-hmm.
I guess not entirely because they want to interfere, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not super into politics, you probably don't know what's going on because I don't really know what's going on between Chinese and China.
Mm-hmm. I definitely want to look it up. I wish I could have brought that up today but I have a lot of extra details or something else. But we definitely will be talking about that next time, if anything, because that's something that is ongoing and also just happening. And like I said with the article that I referenced earlier, how those things are not the same as Ukraine and Russia. A whole lot of people can make that comparison, but I actually have no idea. But yeah, I mean, this guy, if he gets a death penalty, that'd be amazing. But what do you think? Should he get life? I mean, he's going to get either or. But what do you think would be the better punishment?
I mean, I'm still against the death penalty personally. I don't like the idea of killing someone, even if I'm not the one doing it really. But it's just kind of like, optimist in me, I guess, just wants to be like, just let them rot in prison. Optimistically, let them rot in prison.
Let's waste people's tax money
and just I think there's more punishment in just enduring that than there is in death, because once you're dead, you can't pay for your crimes anymore.
I don't know. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein did kill himself. I don't know about, but so did Robin Williams. The thing about Robin Williams, like, this guy was always like a comedian, right? Like, this guy always told good jokes on stage, made people laugh. I mean, he really killed himself. And then when he went to heaven, right? God was looking at Robin Williams and he was trying to say, "It's not your fault," but it is because he killed himself.
just so the visual gets it, or the audio listeners get it. But I just rested my head on my hand to just let Frankie go on his little joke.
Thank you. It's a good joke. I think it's a good joke. It just got to be executed a little better. But for those who just heard, I hope you laughed and giggled twice. Rest in peace, Robin Williams and Saddam Hussein. But yeah, ultimately that's the shooting that occurred in Laguna, California. And yeah, that is just a terrible story, and there's not really that much developing. I mean, he got out alive, right? So we're going to see what happens with that. But that it just sucks for. I'm not gonna say it sucks for him. He deserves to get the punishment. But I also would like to hear what happened to him when he got almost beat to death. Like, is his wife dead now?
You want to know his Joker origin story.
Basically. His boo-ha. And yeah, any thoughts on the shooting?
I mean, again, I don't think he really should get the death penalty, but it's really unfortunate that this happened, and the fact that I didn't hear about this is definitely makes me think of like what I was saying before of like, I wonder how much focus this is getting across the country as a whole. But it's an interesting conversation to have. It's really unfortunate, but shout out to Dr. John Chang.
Facts. I was about to shout out Eddie Wong, but fuck Eddie Wong. Shout out to John Chang and Eddie Wong, because he did put me onto the story through his stories. But the Dr. John Chang, I think, is the person that should come out on this and should be spoken of more, and this bitch ass David Shaw, whatever. Because that guy really, he did something that, man, he just did one of the bravest things in the world. Everybody says, yeah, I do this in that situation and that situation. And even Mark Wahlberg on 9/11, he was like, if my kids were on the plane, that stupid shit. But real heroes, they just come whenever. And actually, with the John Chang person, I actually forgot to mention, he had done physicals because he did sports medicine. So he had done physicals for a certain nearby school. And I think with all the money he made for that event or something, he donated half the money he had made for that program.
Nice.
So he did that. He also was a doctor for somebody in the NFL. So that somebody in the NFL thanked them for not only being a hero to him, but to the people there.
Nice.
And this guy was just, a really great person. Like, you could see in this picture, just smiling, happy to be alive. And it just sucks, man, because now, not only did the mom and him lose her father, his husband, but now she lost her son, and his family lost those people, and it's just, you can't justify at all what this David. No, you can't pity him either. He's just a douchebag for what he did to the world, and it just sucks.
I feel like douchebag is kind of a light term.
Facts. Super facts. Yeah, you're not a douchebag, bro. You're worse. You're just a douche.
I was gonna say exactly that. You're just the literal douche. That's it.
Asshole. But yeah, and now we get to better news, I guess. Not better news.
I was like, what?
I thought, we're getting to worse, not worse news, just terrible, terrible news. Not better news. And we get to the Buffalo shooting, which happened in New York, right? Now, this is a great article, but his name is, I can't really say it. It's Esau, but I'll spell it Esau. And his last name is Macaulay, right? Mccauley. And he writes for The Atlantic. And the name of the article is America Isn't Ready to Truly Understand the Buffalo Shooting. Now, the name of the shooter in the Buffalo shooting is Peyton Gendron. And I mean, I really like how this guy references the whole thing, because it starts with the story of himself, right? He starts with the story of himself walking around. And I think he had gotten into an altercation where somebody had come at him just for being black, or either he got arrested or just, really, no, he didn't get arrested. He just got bothered by people for being the wrong skin color in the neighborhood. Not that he has a skin color that's wrong, but to the people that attacked him.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that bad of a situation. And I'm paraphrasing, but he gets home and he says, when I got home and I sat at the table, my wife didn't know what happened. She was a little worried. My kids didn't know what happened, but they didn't need to know what happened. Like, I got home safe and I'm fine. And there's no reason I'm going to put that stress onto them. Then he says, but those family members that got killed at that market, those families will never be able to, be hid away from that terribleness. Like, they have to deal with that from now on for the rest of their lives, for that empty seat at the table, just for black people trying to buy food, or like at a supermarket or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think that was really well written, even though I ruined it with how I said it. But it's a long article.
Frankie.
And then he continues and he says, and this is from word for word, he writes, "We are forbidden to notice that black Americans were murdered while in search of sustenance, and Dylan Roof was fed Burger King after his racially motivated attack on a black church. We must deem it a coincidence that the black church, a key element of the black communal life, was targeted by Roof in 2015 and the Ku Klux Klan during the height of the Civil Rights Movement in 1963. We must turn our eyes from the fact that Gendron's wild claims about, quote, replacement theory are fairly similar to the, quote, you will not replace us chants that occurred in Charlottesville in 2017. So I'm basically saying how, when are we going to sort of realize, and the article kind of gets on this, like, when are we going to be able to look at these situations and say there is trace back to systematic, racism in history in America that leads to these things? And when are we going to finally be able to go to a bunch of cops and say, this is not just per case issue, just mental issue or this and that. Like, there's a trace back. There's a pattern, how, like Eddie Wong said, there's a pattern to this stuff. And that if we were able to bring that into crime scenes and say, how can we, I don't want to say blame this person using history, but in a way, layer that on top of what he's done. I mean,
use it as a tool.
Yeah. Because just like serial killers, and even in the show Mindhunters, which I like reference all the time, I love that show, how the FBI began to sprout more into the serial killer field, like psychiatric aspect, because they realized that these people don't do this just because they want to commit a crime and a motive. Sometimes there's a more estranged thing to it. As racism is to these hate crimes, the estrangedness to wanting to, cut off people's toenails one by one and torture them and behead them. Like, why exactly did you want to do this? And when you look into people's past that do these things, you can notice there's something wrong with them, Really, really fucking good article. I really recommend it. Again, his name is something. I'm just kidding. Esau Macaulay. But I think it's a great, great article and a beautiful read. I even sent it to our friend Anthony.
Nice.
I hope he responds soon.
He's not so good at responding to text.
Not at all. But it's a really great article. So now we get to the point of the Buffalo shooting with this guy named Peyton.
Well, I'll just say real quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that you kind of bring that up, or that Asao brings this up.
Mm-hmm.
Just because personally, the way that I've seen it, while you can definitely trace systemic racism, there's almost something. I just feel like that the fact that it's taken this long is ridiculous. Like it's something that you can't really ignore.
Yeah, not at all.
The fact that it's taken this long, and for a journalist to say that they can just like trace it back. I mean, if a journalist can do it, then the cops can do it.
Yeah, but I think, and I agree completely, and I think it just has to do with what's that word, like why they go so deep in like psychology and then courtrooms, how they have to, like, we know you're guilty, right? But how are we gonna prove without reasonable doubt that we can prove it, right? So I think the proof has to be so indefinite, and I think what we can't look at is there's no racist gene, or as maybe we don't know that there is, you know?
I mean, but it's just so interesting because, like, as we've seen in American History X, like that movie kind of almost proves that you can trace systemic racism. True. Because it starts at the home more often than not. It starts from your elders, whatever the case is.
I agree.
So it's just, but at the same time, there's no real way to combat that.
And how do you like uphold that in a courtroom where this person's on trial and then you're like, well, his father taught him that. So to what extent are we going to punish his father? Or like, you know, the community did that, you know, or like this group did that. You know what I'm trying to say? Like at the end of the day, like your decisions are your decisions, right? And I think it's important to realize because you bring up the whole like nature and nurture in American History X, and it's exactly that. But I think that's why it can't be done yet, at the very least, because there's so much examples for that to be traced back as, you know, like there's an abundance of it where it shouldn't be that high. But then I think of the Kim Porter lady who shot the guy after her yelling taser. You know, she yells taser, 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 pulls out a gun and shoots the guy by mistake. A veteran officer, and she only gets 2 years in prison, or 2.5 years or something like that. And it's like, that's somebody's child that got killed because you made a mistake and deemed this person dangerous, I guess, you know, for being in a car after they showed no weapon or nothing. I mean, I don't know, you know, or Derek Chauvin putting his knee on that guy's neck, George Floyd's neck. And just, why was he doing that? You know, like, why did you go that hard for what, a counterfeit bill?
I think it was something like that.
It's just terrible, you know, and this is like one more example, but how we see the little girl who was handcuffed outside the museum because there was a protest for like masks and stuff. Like, we can argue this and that, or just discuss how they were protesting in the museum without masks, sure, but why handcuff this 12-year-old black girl? You know, to be walked to in a big ass crowd to the cop car, you know, like, was that necessary?
And as we just talked about last episode, especially like doing this to children, like dealing with enforcement law can be very traumatic and cause a lot of issues. And
not even children, full grown adults. Just being handcuffed in itself is such a wrong thing. People who get handcuffed are people who've done wrong. You know, like, you don't see on a movie the good guy get handcuffed, put into a cop car. You know, so you associate that with like, I've done something wrong, I'm a criminal. You know, I've smoked a joint with a friend of mine, and
I mean, you know, if you're really kinky, then like
bad,
you probably love handcuffs. You're probably like, oh, arrest me, officer, please.
Like, you know, I'm not. I guess the furry handcuffs. And then imagine people who commit crimes because they are turned on by handcuffs being placed on them by authority figures, right? Then can you say, well, this person should be cleared of their crimes because, you know, they have this instilled of them, you know, because of the preference they prefer mentally and sexually. What if somebody, you can't do that, right? Same thing with the whole racism thing. We're like, well, why can't, you know, this is something instilled in this person because of their past or their experiences, you know?
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where we know what's there, but we can't prove that it's there because it's kind of just floating in the air. It's weird, man.
It's frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, even to a friend of mine who I will mention, unless he wants to tell a story himself, who we were at the piers. This is before we was legal. And we were smoking in a piers and it was raining. So we were covered. Cool ass spot. And this cop comes up to us And, you know, I pass him the joint, and then we look over, and then he's holding the joint while the cops are coming, you know? Best thing to do was to throw it. But these cops come over to us. We're both Hispanic. And there's a big, tall white cop, and then a Spanish cop, right? She's a lady. And he's like, hey, I hope you didn't throw that away because you're going to get in more trouble if you do. And we're just there like, yo, what the hell? So, you know, he holds the joint in his hand, my friend. They write up a ticket, this and that, and they handcuff him. They handcuff my friend, and they, mind you, we're the piers. Mm-hmm. So the street is like a good long walk. And they start walking him to the cop car in handcuffs in front of everybody at the piers. And I have to just follow him. And then the lady starts talking to him in Spanish, trying to console him. And it's like, what, over a joint? Like a little-ass joint? They take him, they bring him to the precinct. They basically give him a warning and said that if he gets, like, you know, in trouble again or whatever, then he'll really get, like, fined or this and that. But it's just like, how much damage did you do to this person for, you know, putting him in handcuffs, walking him to a cop car, driving him to a precinct, and bringing, like, you know, processing him? Yeah. Like, was that all necessary?
I have a pretty near traumatic experience with the cops too for smoking, just because these cops caught us smoking in the middle of the day, and they were just so shocked by like how young we were and whatever, and they were just really upset.
You were like 8.
Okay. Honestly, a shitty thing about having a birthday in December is that because since I have a late birthday, people always think I'm a year younger, but it's like realistically I'm the same year as like whoever's born in 97. Good year. But so my friend and I, he was 19 and I was turning 19 that year, but I had to say I was 18. And when I said that, the cops was like, oh my God, like that sort of like, idea of like, he's throwing his life away already.
Yeah. When in reality, you're doing nothing hurting the world, you know?
And they had us, they wanted to take us to the precinct because they were like, no, we're going to take you guys in for this and whatever. And we were like, we can't do that.
Yeah.
We were like, that's ridiculous. We're not going in for this. Like, and they were like, your parents are going to have to pick you up and whatever. It's like, my parents are upstate. And my friend, he was from Cali. It's like, his parents aren't going to be here.
Okay.
So we were like, we really can't do that. And they're like, so what? What do you want us to do then? And we were like,
go fight real crime, assholes. Like, you know, go do real things in this world.
They made us throw our bong on the floor and break it in front of them.
Are you kidding me?
And swear to them that we'll never do it again.
See, that sounds like some obnoxious pighead fucker shit. You know what I mean? Like, who does that? Like, well, that's like bullying a person. You know, like, yeah, man. Guess what? I made this 18-year-old dude. I made him break his bong. You know, like, oh, you're so fucking tough, man. That's ridiculous.
My friend was sobbing and stuff like that because his parents were super conservative and things like that. So if they ever caught wind of him smoking, it would be the end for him. Like, because they had already threatened him before of like, you fuck up, we're bringing you back here to Cali.
They catch him and they're like, grab your bong and break it. Throw it on the floor and smash it. They're like, the cops. I got caught smoking twice, right? Well, I got whatever. One time was in St. Mark's, right, where you with Ben and Jerry's and all that stuff. And me and my friends go into like this building that's kind of like abandoned, basically. And they have, you know, when you walk into a building in New York City, there's like a hallway and then there's the staircase. And there's 2 doors. So me and my friends are smoking in there. A couple of friends have been outside just, you know, waiting. You know, we're just smoking. The joint is in my hand when 2 cops come, right? They open the door and they're like, hey, come on out. I was like, damn it, I had the joint in my hand. So we're all just there. And the first cop is like really fucking cool. And I had the joint in my hand, so I'm the only one getting a ticket. And the other cop in the cop car, he's the one that's like, the guy talking to us is like, he's the one that's being anal about this. He was like, we could have had you for trespassing because we were looking for somebody, like a robber who's going into houses and stuff like that. We were like, whatever with that, you know? And towards the end of it, what I like about the 2 friends I was with, Chris and Fabian, like we're very good talkers, I guess, you know, especially when it's a random cop or some shit. So we don't really look at the situation as like, oh my God. We're just kind of like, hey man, so like, what do you think about like being a cop today? And like, you know, a lot of people are against the cops and this and that. And the guy's like, well, you know, I still think of the cops I think of it as a job, you know, regardless, like we're going to have people hating on us. Then we have this like back and forth about, you know, my friend wanted to be a cop and this and that. And then we talk about Xbox. and like gamer tags, and like my friend tries to get his gamer tag so we could play.
Bruh.
And he was super fucking cool. Like, this is a cool cop, you know. And there was one time when I got stopped by cops on a train for crossing between the doors, you know. And in the same situation when I was by myself, it was a little high, but that was outside of the matter. And I was like, what should I do next time cops stop me? Because I never get stopped by the cops. And the guy's like, well, you know, just, you know, behave, don't reach for your pockets, like, you know, respond and this and that. I'm like, okay, like, you know, just asking because this and that. Both those instances, both tickets dismissed. Like, I didn't have to pay shit, you know? Like, I went to the place, paid my ticket. They were like, your shit dismissed. I was like, nice. You know? And who's to say if that's because of the small talk we made or this or that, or just because they realized, you know, we're not dickheads. You know, still unfair.
Yeah, I mean, I had gotten a ticket because that wasn't the only time I got caught smoking too. So I had gotten a ticket once for smoking, and I thought it was gonna be this big thing. I was like, oh fuck, man,
they shoot you,
like,
I
which
is
like,
not a possibility.
I was like, this sucks. I really gotta go to court for this. Like, I was like, what does it even mean? Going to court for smoking weed? What the fuck?
Wasted everybody's damn time.
And fucking, I went in there. I showed the ticket to this guy, and I was like, yeah, I'm here for this. And he's like, all right. Stamp.
Yeah, dismissed.
Gives me the paper. You're good. And I was like, that's it?
Yeah, bro.
He's like, yep, you can go home. And I was like,
yeah, bro.
Yo, man, what the fuck was that about?
And I hear a lot of these cops that give these tickets, even if it's like regular parking tickets and stuff, if you go to court often, they won't want to go because it's just, they have to go to court and testify on this and that. It's not a for sure thing, but I definitely know somebody who's a cop now tells me that. They're like, most of the time, if you go like fight it, they're not really going to show up to go fight that one ticket. You know, they might for sure because it's their fucking job. But this last time, and I promise we'll get to the Buffalo shooting soon. I'm in a car with a friend of mine, big orange car, huge orange Jeep. Like, it's just the craziest, outrageous car you see. And he's rolling weed on a tray. He's in the driver's seat, so it's looking terrible. He's rolling a blunt. There's weed. I have weed on me. Mind you, this is weed, you know, a plant. Like, this is not like we got coke on the thing, drinking liquor and all this and that. Like, we're just smoking marijuana. While smoking and driving is something that, you know, you can have the discussion about yourself, whatever. Long story short, the cops come up to us. They're like detectives, right? They pull up behind the car and they're like, hey, like, everybody got the car, this and that. And we're like, definitely have all the weed everywhere. Like, he's rolling a blunt in the driver's seat. You know, I have an eighth of weed ground up in my grinder. My friend Chris is there, just there chilling with his weed. And they just stop it. Yeah. Just, what are you guys doing? And so the DTs pull us out the car and they make us stand behind the trunk. And he asks the driver, he's like, what else is in there? Like, am I going to find anything else? Like, any weapons, any, like, bigger drugs, this and that? And we're like, no, it's just marijuana. But again, we go to the talking. Like, we go to the small talk. Like, again, we're not doing it to be like, hey, man, you know, like, let us, like, we're just genuinely, like, having a conversation. Like, just, like, we're not trying to escape or nothing. And then they're like, all right, you know what? You don't got nothing in there. Like, just don't get out of here. Like, stop doing that shit over here. Like, just go. We don't care about that stuff, you know? I go in. His weed is fine. They threw my eighth on the ground. Damn. They threw my whole eighth on the ground, bro. But we got away with it. And I mean, it goes to show how unimportant it was to, like, do anything, you know, to people in general for marijuana. But we're very lucky to tell those stories. You know, there's probably some people in jail right now because of marijuana. Yeah. You know, like, we're extremely lucky. And, you know, it's just the fact that it's legal now. It kind of makes our stories seem kind of pointless, you know. Like, I found my ticket in my Bible just cause.
What a weird place to have your ticket in your Bible.
I have my David Villa, his autograph on a burrito card, and my ticket for marijuana. The Bible. It's just an old Bible that I have in my house, and it fell on the ground. And then I opened up, and I saw my ticket and my autograph, and I was like, I looked up, and I was like, Jesus. It was so funny, bro. But yeah, I met David Villa. He plays for Spain. What's up? And yeah, so I mean that's a whole interesting thing. But what a beehole! Yeah, that was a crazy tangent. But yeah, so let's get back to the shooting. So yeah, this guy's saying how this situation is not black people who just so happen to be where the violence was. It's actually no, the violence is happening because this person traveled to a place particularly where there's a lot of black people, and his motive was to shoot and kill black people because of the reason of him disliking them for their skin color. And was it the theory, replacement theory? Okay. And the replacement theory is an interesting topic in itself. So This is in Buffalo, New York. It's in a Tops supermarket in a neighborhood that's predominantly black, right? The suspect who committed the crime, his name is Peyton Gendring. He's 18 years old, and he committed a hate crime or committed a racially motivated violent extremism. Apparently, he not only spoke out against black people but Jewish people.
Okay.
So there's a sporting events, restaurants, and schools around the area have been either shut down or closed down because they themselves are worried about future attacks if it's more than him, which is interesting. Those chants.
I'm getting some January 6th vibes here.
Hell yeah. And one thing that's important to realize is that I'll talk about replacement theory in a bit, but the "you will now replace us" chants, right? Those happened in Charlottesville in 2017. That's when people were spewing like, we're not going to get replaced by Jews. And there's a bunch of white people waving, tiki torches in the air saying, you will not replace us, referring to, immigration and all that stuff. The fucking protests that Trump called, they were good sides on both. There were good people on both sides. Very good people. Of course he would, right?
Yeah.
Like just kind of, he was like, oh, stand down and stand by, to the people that literally calls January
Proud Boys
dickheads. And wow, this sprouts talk of freedom of speech and hate speech, and that hate speech can't be part of freedom of speech, which is something I would like to discuss with you in a bit too, because it's interesting. It's an interesting conversation to have. But so because of the other places that are closing down because of the possibility of threats, there's a lot of cops hanging around them, like where Jewish people pray. What are they called again? Mosques? Right?
Not mausoleum.
Not mosque, but is it mosque or is it like? I'll open my calculator. I'm mistaken. Let's see. What do you think? Oh my god!
You should type in boobs in your calculator.
I was about to 8008. Was it at 3? I went back.
5. Frankie, god damn it.
Synagogues. They're being butchered. I wrote boob 3. Okay, so basically places are closing down because he killed 10 people and 13 people overall were shot. 3 injured, 10 killed. 10 of the people that were killed of the 13 were black. It was 10 or 11, but I'm pretty sure it was 10. 2 months before the shooting, he had visited the store, so he scouted the thing out and everything. And just like David Chow in the Laguna shooting, this guy drove 200 miles away. He drove 200 miles, approximately a 3-hour drive to get to the market. So his sole intention was to go there. In his 180-page manifesto that included a bunch of things, like memes, but also replacement theory and all this stuff, he had a drawing of the layout of Tops Market. So he had planned to, venture within Tops and everything. He already knew the layout and how it was. And this is crazy. Oh no. So the recent story with the Laguna shooting, I said that David Chow went to and dropped off ammo boxes at his house. That was this guy. So this guy went to his house and dropped off boxes of ammo.
So who dropped the ammo off at?
The Buffalo shooter.
Okay.
He dropped the ammo boxes, but that's the only thing that I got wrong over there. That's what the roommate reported, and from here on out has told the police, and like they going through his shit and everything, his computer. The craziest thing is that the day before he shot up the market, he spoke with a person called Brady Lewis outside the store. Right? Peyton spoke with him like near the store, and the way Brady Lewis described Peyton was saying he went up to him because he had a shirt that said "Genius." Brady Lewis saw Peyton, the shooter, with a shirt that said "Genius," and he went up to him and he's like, "Well, he's a genius, right?" So he went up to him and they discussed string theory, critical race theory, and the beginning of civilization. So that's the discussion he had with this guy. But Brady described Peyton as having a nervous twitch, and yeah, so he was just a little off. Like he knew he was a little off, but he didn't know obviously they was gonna shoot a fucking thing. But because but being white also and just a bunch of stuff. So the next day, it was 11 or 13 people who were black that got shot. The next day he goes in, walks in, and he's wearing tactical helmet and gear before he goes into the shop. He live streamed the event on Twitch. From here on out, Twitch is taking it down, and he streamed himself killing 11 people and injuring 2 more. He had planned to continue attacking a different location if he had escaped. But at the end of the whole thing, he put a gun to his head and was convinced to put the gun down by the cops around him. So he was then arrested. So that's interesting. A security guard who was a former Buffalo police officer was killed. And one of the crazier things is that there's a video, which, you know, I'll put it in the thing. But there's a video of him firsthand, like shooting the store and everything. And he points his gun down at some guy on the floor. The guy's white. So the guy's he's just screaming for his life. He's like, like, you know, looking up at Peyton. Peyton's pointing his gun at him and he looks away. He's like, sorry. And he continues. So that's what's making people think this is a race-related hate crime that's driven by that, because, you know, like, it's clearly in the video, you know? And it's terrible.
The cops convincing him to not shoot himself kind of makes me think of this little scene in Captain America Civil War, where Baron Zemo, his plan comes to fruition at the end, and he's basically won, and but he kind of escapes from the fallout of everything. Yeah, and he's about to shoot himself because he's like, there, I did everything I got to do, so I'm gonna just peace out forever. And fucking Black Panther pulls up and he's like, you're not gonna get away with this. And he's like, we'll see about that. And he's about to pull the trigger on him, but T'Challa just sticks his hand on
and he
the
shoots
top of the
hand
gun.
or anything.
But because he's wearing his suit,
it just stops
the bullet. And he's like, no, you're going in for this. And it's just like little cool moment.
Awesome. That's cool. And obviously that's like imaginative compared to real life, but I think that's just cool as fuck. And it makes you think of the story, and this I'll go really quick with, but the story of the Vanessa lady who got killed on base with the army. She was like sexually abused or molested, and then she was murdered on base. They were trying to figure out who did it. And when they finally got a trace on who did it, which was like an ex of hers or somebody, they were going on his way to him, but he had killed himself. So I was talking to two people who were in the army, and when we mentioned that story, the second we mentioned that he killed himself, the guy says, hey, he's a fucking coward, you know?
Damn.
Yeah, like and he is. Like, he's a piece of shit coward because there's no closure. And I don't use the word like he's not a man. Like, I don't use those phrases, but he's not it's just a coward fuck, you know, for killing and you know, a fellow soldier, you know, nonetheless, a daughter, you know, and yeah, it's terrible. Like, that's why, like, when you bring up the whole on the last episode with a lot of sexual, assault and molestation happening in the Russian army and stuff, like, I just think that, like, America is just as to be held accountable.
I'll do one last quick thing, but there is if I remember correctly, a Russian soldier actually pleaded guilty to him shooting a Ukrainian civilian in one of the recent trials.
No way.
So it's happening.
Good. And I mean, hope that guy dies, you know? I mean, maybe not that, but like whatever they do, but to the fullest extent of the law, Ukraine-wise. Before we go further, the people that passed away, it says there was 10, there are 11. I see 10 here. But the names are Celestine Cheney, Roberta Drury, Andre McNeil, Catherine Messi, Marcus Morrison, Hayward Patterson, Aaron Salter, Geraldine Talley, Ruth Whitfield, and Pearl Young. And if there's one more, apologies. But it's just terrible. And their ages are 32, 52, 53, 55, 62, 65, 67, 72, 77, 86. Not in that order in particular, but those are the age ranges. And yeah, it's crazy. And so I wanted to bring up real quick also, like, Tucker Carlson has been a big part of this whole story. Right. Okay. And I know I remember I sent you a bunch of fucking links and stories and stuff, and I've been trying to show you that this Tucker Carlson is a crazy motherfucker. Like, his words, like, he's a great speaker. I think people shouldn't take that as like him being praised for like his political not inflation. What's it called? Influence. There we go. And what I try to say with great speakers is that they're very dangerous because they can really have their own motive and sound like they're doing the best or like telling the real truth, you know? And before I got into this subject, which is the replacement theory thing, where he's talking about, what's his name? Peyton Grandjo. And the video starts off and he goes, very stressed. He says, we have a mentally unhealthy boy, who's shooting up this place, who's very mentally ill. And he just repeats that, like, mentally ill. And a part of me understands that he probably wants to uphold this bearing arms conversation. So he doesn't want to, this guy has a gun. He's mentally unable to have a gun, but the people who are mentally able to have guns should keep them, right? Now, the way he references this person is just, again, he doesn't try to justify his means and say, like, he did kill people and it was wrong and it was black people and this and that. But he just does it in the sense of how he kind of spews this replacement theory, which is ultimately, to define it like word for word, replacement theory is the conspiracy that states that non-white individuals are being brought into U.S. and other Western countries to replace white voters and to achieve a political agenda. This theory is spewed from anti-immigration groups and white supremacists. Right now, the reason, also, by the way, Payne, the shooter, has pled non-guilty to first-degree murder. Oh wow, yeah, savage.
Honestly, what the fuck?
Yeah, and Jesus Christ, and so. Tucker Carlson is important in this situation because there was a shooter in the, Home Depot that shot up a bunch of Hispanics and stuff. And he also was saying things about replacement theory. Now, the video MSNBC showed blaming Carlson for his, talking and how this has uprose is because every time there's a shooting for one of these reasons, the search history for, like, what is it, the SEC or SEO, right? Where, like, when a keyword pops up and everything, whenever there's a major shooting involving this, the search engines go up for replacement theory. And with Tucker Carlson talking about it, basically saying that, this is theory that people are literally saying that people coming to this country to, like, outvote the whites and this and that. The search for replacement theory has risen up to its highest with Tucker Carlson speaking on it. And so now you look at Peyton, whatever his name is, asshole, who's committing these crimes, and in his manifesto they find the replacement theory, which can, you can hear that from Tucker Carlson, so he gets a lot of backlash for that. Of course, he's put out videos saying, people, you guys are insane and this and that, But I think it just goes to show how,
like, response videos on, like, social media or something,
just like on the show Tucker Carlson Tonight, because
just straight up on the show.
Yeah, because and I gotta watch those videos to ensure, but I'm pretty sure that's what he does, because what he does very well is just sway the truth to whatever he likes. And from what I also sent you is that he has, like, the most views in terms of, like, shows to this year. So his show is number 1 at the moment. And more people are watching him than ever in 2022. So it's a really dangerous thing for this type of messaging to be spread around. And I don't know. I think that's a scary thing, just because who else is watching Fox, and especially Tucker Carlson? I'm pretty sure those same people that are stand by and stand down people, those January 6 people. Because Tucker Carlson probably defended Kyle Rittenhouse for bearing arms. He calls all these white people, like, heroes and stuff like that. And that's when I can see the blame is to be, when how we were talking earlier, like, how can we use trace backs of history to say, hey man, like, this guy's a racist doing racist things because he was shown that way through this and this and this. I think there's a case here with Tucker Carlson and spewing that hate. And when does that lead to inciting violence? Because if we're going to punish Trump, we got to punish somebody else too, Yeah,
I mean, because I know you're also getting to this in terms of, like, a conversation of free speech and hate speech. Yeah. And, like, because it's not, Tucker Carlson isn't necessarily it's not necessarily hate speech. No. But it, like,
tones. There's tones.
Yeah, it's like it just goes back to him being such a great speaker, where it's kind of like he's almost balancing that
fine line of shit.
Yeah, where it's like, if you were to say that one wild thing, then it'd be hate speech. Yeah. But he's saying it in just the right way, where it can be, it's an insinuation and just that, exactly. And it's not
you interpret what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so
I mean, that's what makes a great speaker, like not like stepping on the eggshells, but not breaking them. Like, kind of like, like resting your feet on them just the perfect amount without kind of bothering anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you introduced me to Tucker Carlson a few episodes ago, and the fact that I haven't heard about this guy is just kind of insane, because it's like, now I just feel like he's just popping up on my news feed just way more frequently.
Telling you, bro, he's cancerous. He's definitely a terrible terrible, terrible person to this world. And again, like for me, what intrigues me is, again, I love great speakers. Like the same reason I like that guy who made the EpiPen a bunch of more money than it's supposed to be.
Martin Shkreli.
Yeah, like I watch his interviews. Like you hate him all you want, but watch interviews for him on Vice and him giving that speech in front of Columbus Circle in a big ass window. It's just, it's not even that he's such a great speaker all alone. It's also that like his points are true. Like you're getting mad at him, but this is literally what like health companies do all the time, you know, like even with the vaccines and stuff. Like we talked about it a long time ago, but the amount of money they were making when this vaccine came out, you know, like we don't think about those things, you know, we don't have a scapegoat. But again, like if I say, Javi, I need you to sell this microphone, right? I need you to sell this microphone, and you have to make as much money as you can with this microphone. That's literally your job. And you do it, you sell it to somebody who has all the means to buy it for the most priciest you want, but you lie to them about how good it is, you know, but you've done your job for me, which is all that it's asked. No matter if you did it right or wrong. I didn't ask you to do it right or wrong, you know? And so this is a little idea of that that's why Obama is a scary person too. You know, because Obama, hey, he's the coolest president we had, and this and that. First of all, I think he's the coolest president he's had, because Bill Clinton was pretty kind of cool.
Was he though?
Nah, I mean, I don't know. You know, it's on some scales,
such a fucking lame haircut.
Yeah. You mean the average everyday American haircut? Hey,
God, he looks like he should be mowing the lawn at 7 a.m. on a Saturday.
Wearing overalls and a flannel, even though it's too hot for a flannel.
Not even wearing overalls. He doing it shirtless with a fucking sunburned back.
Just not giving a fuck. Well, damn, bro, I watched Inglourious Bastards. Brad Pitt is a monster, bro. We gotta kill them Nazis, and Nazis we will kill. Yeah, he just amazing with the wording and everything. Jesus Christ, man. That's a great actor, bro.
Brad Pitt is a goodie.
Jesus Christ. Everybody. Christoph Waltz, him, the lady who plays Shoshana. That's all I gotta say. Anyway, so with the replacement theory, you know, again, people are saying, oh, we're gonna get outvoted, therefore, you know, for political reasons is the reasons we'll get outvoted and our power will go away as white people, this and that. Although, okay, like white supremacists argue that the influx of immigrants, people of color more specifically, will lead to the extinction of the white race. So ridiculous. And now, when you look at the majority of the U.S., you think of white people. But around 2041, 2046 is when the minority is expected to become the majority, and white people will be the minority in the country, which would be a crazy thing. I'll be like, and I think that's important to know. I also thought it was going to be way later. I guess when I was in school, I remember being in school and I thought it was going to be 2060. So it's either that number has gone down or I was paying attention.
I've never even heard that number, so. Yeah,
but it's supposed to happen very soon, and, you know, relatively soon. We'll be wrinkled by then. We'll be the supremacists.
Not I, sir. I put on my lotion. I put on my skincare.
I hope you get done wrinkly next year, bro. Just next year.
When I'm 60, I'm gonna be as baby smooth as I am today.
I'm like, are you here for an ass eating competition? Like, no, I'm not 60. I just look like this. Now, yeah, so that's pretty much the whole thing with the replacement theory. We can go further into it, but I mean, that's pretty much it. You know, I say so. And now the interesting thing is the live stream of the event.
Yeah, now because I had seen that. I was like, that's wild.
Yeah, now we've had that happen before, and I've unfortunately seen a bit of the video with the Dylan Roof guy. Like him, it's just terrible. Like I'm pretty sure if he's the one with him going into the church and killing a bunch of black people while they're in church, I mean, the glimpse I saw of it, like I looked away just so I wouldn't have to see as much. But from what I saw, it's just the most terrible thing. You know, just really like raw footage. And honestly speaking, like just not even to go into that, but I'm pretty sure if it wasn't for that one, it was a different shooter was shooting up a church, and the only reason it didn't get worse is because somebody in the church had a gun to stop that guy. So again, not to be like that, but we could also argue, you know, maybe there should be guns in more places as well. You know, ultimately no guns in general would be the best, but some of them stop shootings, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, it's just no right or wrong in that one. It's just sad that it has to happen in the first place, you know, or even people should have guns to protect themselves, you know? I forgot what comments I was reading about guns. It was like a comment section for some toy gun. Like what is it?
Nerf. You said toy gun.
No, you're absolutely right. But I'm thinking about like gun replicas. Oh. But that's pretty funny. Nerf. America. And he was like, the guy was like, yeah, I have my own company. And everybody walks in armed, you know, everybody feels safe and this and that. I mean, but how weird is that? Like, you guys all have guns thinking, like, what? Like, you're going to save the day, like, every single one of you? And, you know, it's just ridiculous, bro. Like, it's just ridiculous to have that much weaponry in one room outside a precinct or some shit like that, you know?
You know, I was kind of thinking about our sort of gun control law conversations the other day. And
take out my gun, just throw it. So what do you got to say?
But I had remembered that I made a post when we had that one shooting happen at that concert in Texas.
One shooting concert in Texas
where it was some dude. I think it happened in Vegas where it was in
Vegas.
Guy,
I remember the one from the rooftop.
Yeah, he was like sniping at like a concert or something like that.
That shit is terrible. That's a crazy fucking story.
But I was thinking about that because I actually had made a post on Instagram when that had happened, where I had learned that I think the right year was 1996. But in that
good year,
but in that year, Australia bought all their guns back from like the citizens and whatever. And so I forget what else I wrote in that post, but pretty much there hasn't been like a mass shooting since that's happened. And so it's definitely, you know, it can definitely be seen as proven of just like if there are just no guns in the conversation or just nothing like that's gonna happen.
I agree, and I agree, and I would think the only thing that would just like kind of break that down is that, well, we get rid of all the legal guns, what's gonna be left?
I mean, that's because that's why I didn't want to bring up the numbers from my post, because there was something that I mentioned of like of that there has been shootings or something like that, but it's like nothing compared to other countries.
And see that I agree, I understand and agree, and it just sucks, bro, because how can I say, like, there's a bunch of stabbings and shit. Like in France, there was like a big stabbing, like some guy had a fucking machete or something. But yeah, I just think about like drugs, like when we decriminalize and make things legal, like weed or cocaine or whatever, you make the people who are selling it illegally come at a disadvantage, right? Because now you're able to manufacture, protect this and that. I don't really know if that translates to guns, you know, but it kind of does make sense. I just don't know. Like the only reason I do think you should be able to have guns, right? But I think that should only happen when the system to patrol and distribute guns is pristine, you know, which may take forever or never happen, you know, because we look at David Chow and Peyton Gendron, right? How did they get their guns? You know? Illegally, right? And then Ethan Crumble got his gun from his father gifting it to him, which is the 15-year-old who shot up the school or something like that. And it's all weird because like when do you get a gun, and when do you have to be checked up to have that gun registered in your name? You know, when do you become mentally unhealthy? Like, does owning a gun result in your mental unhealthiness because it becomes an option? All that stuff. And
I think that might be a bit of a stretch.
It could be, but I don't know. That's why I don't shoot a gun personally, because I always, I mean, I will in the future. Like if a cop friend is there or something like that. Like
I mean, I would say that like I'm sure maybe something mentally happens when you fire a gun for the first time, because there has been conversations already in studies of like the sort of power that like a weapon gives you. Yeah, like you definitely feel that. So I'm sure that's kind of like what happens. Yeah, but I don't know if it would really affect your mental health.
I think of pyrotechnics, where how their whole job is to blow shit up. You get me? And then arsonists, where their whole motive is to just light shit on fire because of this and that, right? So where's the trace back to that? Like what I think about serial killers who kill small animals when they're younger. You get me? Like there's this pleasure that derives from doing something that can be blown into bigger proportions, right? So with guns, it may not necessarily be I love to shoot things and people now because I've been exposed to this gun. But it's like, I shot this gun and that feels really fucking good. And shooting a gun is probably really fun, you know, realistically. Like if you could just shoot at a tree and like Scarface that shit, you know, that's probably really fun to do. Just like the kid that was in the house when they broke into the last episode, how he was just shooting the AK like in the house all sporadically. Probably really fun to do. It's fun in video games, you know? But just how those little things can, I don't know if they develop worse having shot a gun, but it is an easier way to kill something. Like if you have this rage in you and you want to kill something, it's like shooting a bird with a slingshot and then shooting a bird with the gun.
So it is easier.
I mean, I guess, but it still has the same effect.
I never argued the effect. I
think try killing somebody with your hands and killing somebody with the gun, and I feel like you'll find yourself in the position of like, damn, this sucks. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I'm just saying like I'm sure it takes more to physically finish someone with your hands than it does with a gun.
I still think a gun and I think they're the same thing. Has to be the same thing.
You're thinking of it too mentally. That's not what I'm saying though. I'm just saying
like literally like easior to kill somebody.
Yes,
like,
it's easier to kill someone with your hand or with a gun than with your hands.
For sure. But I think when you think about it like figuratively and stuff, like the post consequences are the same.
No, I mean I agree with you on that. But
all right then, bro.
It's just I knew you didn't get me on that.
Just disagree with me so we can argue. Well, I do. I should say. Ultimately, we agree.
Finally, we can settle it.
Agreed.
Put that shit to bed.
All right. So, so he live streamed the shit, right? So he had a Discord chat. All right. Discord, mad cool. I didn't realize how cool it was until I remember he showed me how to use that shit. But he had a chat on Discord. This is where it gets interesting. So he invited 15 users to the chat, right? So so who the fuck are those people?
Yeah.
Which they're still trying to work on finding. Actually, I'll get this in a bit. But they were able to watch through a live stream on Discord because on Discord he was recording his home screen on his computer. So if you watched it on Discord, you were watching a recording of his home screen. Mm-hmm. So he said they said there was a couple other people. This is interesting. They disabled the chat room that he set up to stream that, and it had, let's see, but they didn't talk about how they learned of the chat room's connection to the attack and who the 15 people were. So when Discord was asked like who are those people and how do you know they were connected, they just didn't say anything. So also, let's see, he had.
I mean, are they at a liability to say like how they knew that? Like,
I don't know.
Is there anything in like the user agreement or anything like that where it's like we can't disclose this information?
I know that so Discord doesn't rely on advertisements. I never knew that, but they offer premium memberships that users can pay for to enable advanced features. So
yeah, I used to pay for Nitro for a little bit.
Yeah. Apparently, if you get the business model, it collects less information than social media companies of user activities. And Discord is not aware usually of how many views a particular piece of content received. So when they were talking about trying to find these people, that they would use like IP addresses, like common people and all that stuff, but it wasn't that as easy as it sounds. Even though I think they're lying out their ass, I think they probably can just easily that shit, like hacking.
I don't know, man. VPNs.
That's true.
People know what they're doing nowadays. It's really easy to hide yourself on the internet.
It's true, but I also feel like if it's easy to hide yourself on the internet more than ever, it's also
it should be easier to find you.
Yeah.
Nah. People are that good, man.
I believe it. Hopefully Anonymous figured some shit out, right? There was a copy of the invitation letter. One recipient. Stop, I can't speak. One recipient. He had a link from the private server connected to Gendring, and he had for 6 months, which had been compiling hundreds of postings that included racist screeds and explicit details of a plan for the shooting of black people at the store in Buffalo. So that's what was within the Discord. This information of like articles and stuff, his manifesto, all this everything, including what was going to happen. And the invitation was titled, quote, "Happening, this is not a drill," end quote. So the chat room also had the link to Twitch and links to his rating. 22 people watched the stream on Twitch. And Twitch said that it disabled the stream 2 minutes into the first gunshot. So after the first gunshot, Twitch shut it down. Twitch is owned by Amazon, whose founder, Jeff Bezos, owns
the Washington Post, too.
Yeah, he owns the Post. That's what it says here. That's crazy. That's fucking crazy. And yeah, so that essentially is the whole thing with this guy. I mean, it's just a weird situation. From down to like the racism, to the manifesto, to the streaming of it. I wonder what the big deal with streaming it is. You know,
why he did it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, like why he did it in the first place, but why like the streaming compel you more to do it.
Well, I mean, like, what do you mean?
Like maybe there's fame to be wanted when you stream these certain things.
Okay. I mean, when I first heard about it, it just made me think of like supervillains. Like that's like something that happens all the time in comics and things like that.
Like, watch this, your hero is under my control now.
Yeah,
and,
shit like that, where it's like they take over the channels and all this shit. So it's like, it's just, they want the attention.
Yeah.
Like, because more often than not, like these kind of shooters and things like that, they are mentally unstable and they're more often than not to be like sociopaths or psychopaths. And people like that love attention.
Yeah, they do.
So it's just, to stream it, to try and get as much attention on it.
Yeah.
It could also be, especially because it seems like it was a hate crime. A hate crime that probably influenced him wanting to stream it to maybe there's this episode in The Boys, great show, where there's one supervillain who starts having a lot of like racial like things to say, like she's basically a white supremacist, and so you see how like her repetition of saying these things on the media and things like that starts influencing people to finally act on these aggressions. And so you see this one character like basically just watching speech after speech of hers and whatever on his phone, and he finally just goes to that one person of color in a bodega and shoots them in the head. And so it could, I kind of see it like that, where it's like he's trying to maybe inspire someone else to do this, to be like, I'm doing it, your turn kind of deal.
Even like the Riddler on Batman, right? How he streams his stuff, which is weird with the whole stream thing causing some crazy shit. Now this happens with this guy, and how he gets a whole group of people to basically follow his movement within the chat and everything, and how they go to basically Madison Square Garden and they all know what to do and assemble like January 6th. I mean, social media and this stuff is getting crazy when it comes to that stuff.
Very powerful.
Yeah. And I agree with the whole speech stuff. I just think that's why people like Hitler and like Obama, Mussolini, all these people, I mean, say what you will about Hitler, obviously nothing positive, hopefully, but this guy, the way he spoke is ridiculous, Of course, there was a lot of fear involved as well, but I mean, the way you get moved by Martin Luther King is the way Putin's soldiers get moved by his voice too. There's an effect that comes from people's speeches, and it's incredible.
I once wrote a paper for a scholarship where I had to try and pin 3 people that I thought were great speakers. Yeah. And I was like, what would really make me stick out from the pack for this scholarship? If I wrote about bad people that were good speakers. So I wrote about Hitler and Mussolini and like that third person. I forget who.
Genghis Khan, I don't think he was a speaker.
I didn't get the scholarship.
God damn it.
So maybe they saw it and they were like, nah, fuck this guy.
Fuck. It would have turned out way better if I got the scholarship and I got a grant.
So they probably were like, this kid is fucking weird.
Fucking American History X motherfucker. In the movie American History X, for those that don't know, this guy was told to write a speech paper about a civil rights leader, but he chose to do it on Adolf Hitler, which is not incorrect, but it was something that the professor was not looking for. And I mean, I don't know. I wrote my paper on Margaret Shkreli and I got an A. Like, that was cool as fuck. I was like, yeah.
I mean, they're also not comparable. I mean, I guess if you're a person that uses an EpiPen, maybe it is comparable. But
yeah, or you don't exist anymore because it was too damn expensive.
Yeah, that's why I said my thing, Frankie. It sounded a little nicer.
I don't know. I don't know. I just
I mean, it's definitely a super messy situation. Yeah. It's just I saw that they were already pulling him into like psychiatric evaluations and stuff like that. So they're definitely trying to get to the bottom of it and see if he's even going to be up to stand trial for this stuff.
I think he will. I think this guy, and there should be no sympathy when it comes to these situations in general, especially when it's like race related or hate crime. But there is some leeway, I think, when it's like a kid, right? When it's like a quote unquote kid, like a 12-year-old does it, or 11-year-old, or like a 15-year-old even. And I think this is where it gets really gritty for this guy because he's 18 years old. So there's none of that, this boy, this young man, I mean, he's young, yeah, for sure. But once you're 18, it's like one of those things where it's like, you know, you're close to that. I don't know what the legal age in New York is 21, 18, whatever.
For as an adult?
Yeah. Or is it always 18? You just can't.
I think it's always been 18.
You can go to war, but you can't buy cigarettes. Stupid. Fucking dumb as fuck. But yeah, so he's an adult. Like, so there's no going back from there. There's just so much shooters. But I think the Valentine's Day shooter, they dressed him up as like, I forget his name, but he had like big glasses, and they made him color in court. And the prosecution was like, yo, they're trying to make him look like a kid. Like, this is basically a grown man now, but they're putting these like big crazy glasses on him, like Disney glasses, you know. And Kim Porter, the lady who got 2 years after shooting with a gun instead of a taser, they made her dress up like a grandma in court. Like, she had this floral sheeting over her, like, you know, old women have when they cower into their arms, and they're like, well, you know, like she was crying and stuff, and it's just this. You know, the judge looks at that, like, just like Kyle Rittenhouse, his bitch ass, how he cried in court and stuff like that.
You gotta dress for success.
Yeah. I killed 2 people. And then you just go home and then you go on a podcast and talk shit about LeBron James. You know, it's just like, what the fuck? Like, so weird. Such a weird thing. So, I don't know.
Yeah, really unfortunate thing.
But, but rest in peace to those people, obviously.
Yes.
And the Dr. John Chang and speedy recovery to everybody else.
But I mean, no, you remember I sent it to you as soon as it happened. I'm like, we gotta talk about this. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah. And I was gonna wait a little longer because I mean it was gonna be developing, but the story in itself is interesting. It's just tiresome that we talk about this all the time, you know, like, respectfully. I mean, we'll talk about it, but it's just tiresome. I mean, people are dead. You know, that's like the real crazy thing. Again, it goes back to earlier, like, it may not affect us firsthand. I mean, it does affect us as a country overall. Everybody that sees this news in the world, but it is devastating, you know, real devastating for people that lost their lives. So, and the people affected by those.
Yeah.
But those are the news. Shootings out the ass, and fuck Peyton Gendring and David Chow, motherfuckers. But now we're on to the AMC section.
AMC section.
So we're to the AMC section, right? And I felt like, well, we're on albums now. The cycle recontinues.
If you don't know what AMC is, this is your first episode. Albums, movies, comics.
We do it every week. We do one of them in order. So A first, M second, C after. And then we just start over the next week. And so we've done a lot of albums. What are some albums we've done, Javier? I know I always ask, but what are some albums?
We've done Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Beatles.
We've done Nirvana's Nevermind. We've done Prince Daddy Naina's Cosmic Thrill Seekers.
Somewhere City.
We've done Somewhere City by Origami Angel. We've done
what else have we done?
We've done like one other. I'm trying to remember. I just had it on the tip of my tongue.
I guess it's the least important album.
Sweet Tooth by Mom.
Sweet Tooth by Mom. Just kidding. And yeah, I mean, we've done Star Wars for an album. We just did Mr. Miracle, crazy ass long ass episode.
Yeah, Mr. Miracle made it our longest episode yet. We spent 2.5 hours on that book. I think we did it justice.
Yeah, man, that's a great fucking read. And so now we're on the albums, and so we're kind of spinning this. The last 2 topics, the shootings were kind of the main topics. Monkeypox kind of was a throw-in, but I did want to speak about Alicia Keys. What the fuck am I saying? Oops. Whitney Houston over herself overall, and then the album, which is her first album, Whitney Houston. So that's her debut album, breakout album.
And that's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about. And I think it's an important album because we all know who Whitney Houston is. You know, we all know, and you know, all that stuff, you know, very amazing and shit like that. But she has a crazy story to the back of her. And so I wanted to kind of have her as a third news topic, and then we lead into the album, which is incredibly short. Incredibly short. So Whitney Houston is a singer and an actor, right? This is a little history about her. It's going to be a lot of history, actually. She's from Newark, New Jersey, born August 9th, 1963. Right? In her career, she's sold close to 100 million albums worldwide during her lifetime. She's gotten 2 Emmy Awards, 5 Grammy Awards, 19 American Music Awards, 5 People's Choices Award, 5 Soul Train Awards, 7 NAACP Image Awards. She's been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2020. She has more consecutive hits than Elvis or the Beatles. To this day, has the record for most consecutive hits songs. Wow. I Will Always Love You is the best-selling single ever released by a female artist. Aretha Franklin was her godmother.
Oh, wow.
Her mother is Whitney Houston. She also performed music. She was a nightclub performer. And her mother sang backup for Aretha Franklin and Elvis Presley. And so she's surrounded music her whole life. Her childhood nickname was Nippy, Nippy. And Whitney Houston actually sang backup for Lou Rawls and Shaka Khan. Okay. So she has a little history herself being a backup singer. And her mom, in a sense, think of it as like Michael Jackson's father. Like her mom was the way phrased by her sister or her cousin, one of her family members, was that she was a disciplinarian. She would make Whitney practice over and over again, like no matter what, because they saw the potential she had and she was younger. She was sent to a private school. She was often bullied when she was younger for being lighter skinned than other people around her neighborhood. She grew up in what she says, the ghetto, like quote unquote. She says, I grew up in the ghetto. My whole life I was in the ghetto before she blew up to fame, you know? But when Whitney Houston was younger, her parents divorced. Her mother had an affair with the pastor of the church that they would go to. So this really messed up the father a lot when they separated. And he was extremely jealous when they were together, to the point where he would tap the phone to make sure nothing else is happening, right? The reason it's important to understand that her mom had this affair with the pastor is because the church is where she basically started singing. So she would sing for the church and this and that, and like, you know, to perform for events and all that stuff. And then she did a solo performance at age 11, if I'm not mistaken. After that performance, her and her mom realized she got potential and she could sing professionally if she wanted to.
Okay.
Earlier I mentioned she's an actor. She's been in The Bodyguard, which is 1992 with Kevin Costner. She also recorded the soundtrack for that film. She won 3 of her 5 Grammys through the movie soundtrack for The Bodyguard. She was also in a couple other movies, but one in particular, The Preacher's Wife, which also starred Denzel Washington. So her career is ridiculous. She was... I
didn't even know she was an actor, to be honest.
Me neither. I actually didn't know that either. And she was nicknamed The Voice, right? Now, I'm going to go a little into the album and then kind of come out and then back into it. But when we talk about the album we're talking about today, it's Whitney Houston. That's what the album is called, by Whitney Houston. It was released on Valentine's Day, February 14th in 1985. This album, on the track list, if we go down real quick, we have Hold Me. That's track number 1. Then we have Someone For Me, Thinking About You, You Give Good Love, All At Once, Saving All My Love For You, How Will I Know, and Greatest Love of All. I think it's a little more, no? Is it just Jose?
I'm a little confused because
you might have the actual. Sorry, I have the singles. Read the track list if you don't mind. Sorry,
because I was like, that's not the order of the album.
Oops. No, you have the track list.
So the album goes: You Give Good Love, Thinking About You, Someone For Me, Saving All My Love For You, Nobody Loves Me Like You Do, How Will I Know, All At Once, Take Good Care of My Heart, Greatest Love of All, and Hold Me.
Yeah, and of those songs. There was 3 number 1 singles in this album. And the 3 singles are Greatest Love of All, Saving All My Love, and How Will I Know. We all know that song, How Will I Know? I'm sure we've all heard it 10,000 times. It was the biggest debut album in history of that time. It sold 20 million copies worldwide. And her next album, Whitney, broke the record for most consecutive number 1 singles. So This lady was top of the world.
And her second album only came out like 2 years after this
around there. I mean, she was dropping a lot of music. I like how the Billboard they did a good article on her, kind of summed up every single song, but I like this line. They wrote, Houston could churn a soulful hymn in the style of Aretha Franklin, deliver a smooth R&B groove in the vein of Shaka Khan, or burst out with an upbeat anthem to rival Diana Ross. And it's kind of like, when we're listening to this album and the way I kind of describe it, you get a little bit of everything in this album. You get her like really silky, incredible voice, and then immediately you kind of start off into this pop, like ding 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 ding, you know, like little pop 80s effects. And I think the first 3 songs serve as this little appetizer tray of what's to come in the rest of the album.
I mean, it's kind of funny because I was like, this song being or this album being from the 80s and stuff, like you can just tell
100%,
like the synths and things like that. It's like it's so 80s.
Hell yeah.
To the point where it's like it's almost a little comical now.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like, man, that was just a vibe back then.
And even in her video for How Will I Know is the cliche 80s workout clothes, and she's just how but it also is just like her voice is so good, and so I watched the documentary before I got here also, like, just to like get up on her, and they open up with How Will I Know, or I want to dance. I want to dance with somebody. One of those songs is one of her biggest hits. That was on the next album. I Want to Dance with Somebody, and I mean, just seeing her, obviously we can't see her perform live right now, but seeing her voice live and just trying to capture it just through itself, it was ridiculous, bro. This person was as famous as Michael Jackson. I never thought that was the truth. I always thought Michael Jackson was the epitome of like fame, but she was right up there with this guy.
I mean, it's Whitney Houston.
Yeah, man. And I just feel like nowadays people don't know who that is or don't even discuss her. Like for sure they're gonna know who that is, but I think Michael Jackson is a more recognizable figure.
It could also just be a sort of like male woman like thing.
I think that, but I don't. I just think that she was so huge. I just think that the times are just passing by to that one point when in the future.
I mean, because like you can say that like Whitney Houston was as big as Michael Jackson, but like a lot of people still don't know that or would probably not agree with that.
True.
So
I mean, I don't know, but Michael Jackson also danced, and he was a male for sure, like, so he had the more opportunities. I just think that, like, when they talk about Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, like, she would spend time with Michael Jackson, and she would say like he's like the only person that can understand where I'm coming from, and I'll get more into it in a bit, but I also think more into the tragedy of fame. Mm-hmm. Like, who can understand that much fame and just kind of being boosted within it, right? So, but you're right, it could be this or that. I just feel I don't hear Whitney Houston enough as much as I hear Michael Jackson. And then you think of all these accomplishments she has, and I just feel like we should still be discussing her. But she kind of got out on the worst end of things, which is why, like, I want to have this discussion, because tragedy, bro. I think of like Amy Winehouse or something like that, So, she performed in New Hope Baptist Church. Again, she began at 5 and performed the solo at 11, which is what made her realize, like, oh shit, I could do this, right? And later in her life, she married a guy named Bobby Brown. I don't know if you ever heard about him.
Sounds familiar.
He's every little step I take, like, he's in a group called New Edition, and later went solo, right?
Okay.
And so he became really jealous of Whitney Houston. She was very happy when they got married, but often they would get like in trouble with the law. He was, having sexual harassment issues with other people. People were saying that he slept around, and that they would just always, be disputing one another, right? A lot of people thought that she kind of withstood that because she didn't want to have a divorce like her mother did. Because after her mother had the affair, they got divorced, and that really broke Whitney Houston. And I think about Kurt Cobain, how when his parents got divorced, like, it just really broke him, and that's what big reason why Whitney Houston might have stayed in that relationship, She had a child called Bobby Christina. She had a child called Bobby Christina, and because of how famous she was kind of neglected by Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown.
Okay.
So her like aunt would have to take care of her child. And the child was born in 1993. Basically, after a long time, the marriage lasted 16 years with drug and alcohol related issues being in the background, also miscarriages. Even when they flew out to Japan, they were able to get their hands on drugs. And this is like cocaine, marijuana, bunch of alcohol, like just everything around them, but mostly cocaine. She was gonna go to rehab at one point, and when she called her father, her father said, "You don't have to go to rehab," and so she didn't. But she had a huge drug problem.
Weird.
Yeah. Now a lot of her music, you hear that's like pop and like this and that. Mind you, she could sing incredibly. But she was criticized a lot for making like basically sound like a white person. Like Al Sharpton put up signs around the building that she was staying at and called her Whitey Whitney. And now, mind you, when she was younger, she got bullied for having a lighter complexion, right? Like being lighter skinned than all the other people and this and that. Like, oh, you're white. So I don't know if you know what Soul Train is.
I mean, I've heard of it.
So it's basically it's an old TV show. I don't think it's on no more. Well, they would just play music, a lot of black people, black music, and like a lot of fun dancing and this and that. But they had an award show, and there's a video where you see her getting brought to the stage, and she's basically being booed every time she goes up to the Soul Train Awards. Whitney Houston is getting booed to receive her awards, and what really bothered her is that she said that it's not even that I make bad music to them. Like, it's just that I am the way I am, you know? When she thought that music was just music. Like, I don't know why it has to be this or that. But again, she wasn't being accepted by people in the black community, you know, deeming her like too white for black music and this and that.
And I mean, even when you mentioned it before, it made me think of like the struggles of blackness in that sense. Like I've like read books about this and talked a lot about this in school and stuff of just like how there's such a difficult thing even when you're black of like what does that even mean to be black, and like how much do you need, like what are the expectations of that? Like we all definitely deal with that, but it's definitely very predominant in the black community of like sort of living up to these sort of black expectations.
I feel that myself, being like a Mexican, very light-skinned Mexican. So when I walk into a place where there's like Mexicans that are like darker skinned than me and this and that, you know, like I recall a gringo or this and that, whatever, like, you know, I'll take it as is, like I'm American as fuck, you know, I get that part. But there's this, you know, like when do you exclude who's part of you? You know, like it's the, I know plenty of Mexican Americans darker than me, and I'm a Mexican American that's lighter than them. And so is he or she more Mexican than me, or is it like even a competition? It's not, you know. But of course, like you said, it does exist, especially in the black community, and I think in all communities to an extent. And then you got white people just hating everybody. So, but it's a discussion to be had. And I would like to have that discussion more, because I feel like it's an important one, and it hinders development in terms of like people don't speak Spanish as much because they're kind of ashamed to try to speak Spanish, you know, because it's ridicule, in my opinion. I think so, you know, or suppression. So definitely that affected her grandly. And I do agree with her when she says music is music, you know. I don't know. It doesn't really, it's like, why is one person allowed to make a certain music than the other? It's like, why should we be shocked that a black person is playing country music? You know, does that even make sense? You know, or do we just expect only white people to sing this music?
I mean, I agree too. It should just be music. That's just it. Music,
exactly. There's even a very famous video of a person who's, I forget her name, but we'll put it up in Elementary. But she's a black guitar player, like one of the first black rock and roll artists, and she performed in front of like a choo-choo train, like passing by or something like that. And it's just a crowd full of white people enjoying how great she is at music. And it's like a black and white video, just incredible. But to me, it's just one of those things where it's like, again, it's just music. You just don't see like a black guitarist as often as you see like a white one or a black man, you know? Like, so yeah, I mean, again, it comes from the heart. So as you saw, so Marvin Gaye had performed at an NBA game. His music is incredible, but he did it in his own style. He did the Star Spangled Banner, but he did it very unorthodox. He did it with like kind of like a jazz beat, almost like this different sound to it. And he did it as he did, just kind of how Jimi Hendrix had his own rendition, right? How he kind of just did it however, but within his own tongue. As you saw earlier, I showed you the Star Spangled Banner sung by Whitney Houston. It's an incredible performance. Like and
very patriotic camera work.
Oh, hell yeah.
And the fade in and outs of like the American flag across the citizens and stuff.
Yeah, bro. And that's all NFL for you. And one of the craziest things about that is in the documentary, they show that. And first of all, I was wowed by how she sang it and how she sings all the time. But they were asking like random people on the street, like, oh, do you know who Whitney Houston is? And a lot of them were like, yeah. It was both black people and white people. They both were like, yeah, I like her a lot. I like Star Spangled Banner. So they were both saying how much they like this song, and how the narrator beforehand, I think it was her brother, saying how like black people in the Star Spangled Banner, those things don't really like meld well, especially given the history and all that stuff. And that the fact that she performed it the way she did kind of represented black people alongside a song that may be kind of like you kind of say fuck that song a little, but it kind of united everything. And it was a really big deal for her to do that song. And also when she performed that song, she had not rehearsed it once. She was told by the person putting the music, background music, he was like, hey, this is how it sounds. And she listened to it for a little bit, and she was like, got it. And then she went and did that.
Nice.
That's fucking crazy. That's like literally the first take was the performance, and she killed that shit. So in 1994, so she did that in 1991, first take. Then in 1994, she was the first major artist to perform in post-apartheid South Africa in Ellis Park, Johannesburg. So that's just a big deal. And this is just a random thing they put up. Well, first of all, Saddam Hussein used an Arabic version of I Will Always Love You for his campaign music.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy. and this is what I write. Some bitch-ass couple called John and Suzanne Hanley. Fuck those guys. They got their neighbor arrested for playing Whitney Houston all day. The neighbor got arrested for 7 days because they were like, yeah, they're playing Whitney Houston. We don't even like Whitney Houston, her music. And I was like, y'all are hating ass bitches.
The fuck?
Yeah, bro. This is bitch ass John and Suzanne Hanley, motherfuckers, man. Hoes. And so like right here out of the quote, she says Whitney Houston when she was younger, or she said, I grew up in the ghetto. That's where I grew up. Now, Whitney Houston's career is going crazy. Like, she's going crazy. Now her family is with her brothers and all that stuff. They're all together. They're also doing a shitload of drugs wherever they go. But I'll get to that in a second. Now, her father was finally going to be able to help and manage Whitney Houston. And in 1999, Whitney Houston got the biggest recording contract any artist has ever received. She got an offer for $100 million.
Okay.
Her father felt that he made that deal, but he wasn't getting paid. So he sued his daughter for $100 million.
Damn.
Yeah. And before that, he was stealing money from Whitney Houston.
Damn.
So one good point they made, they said, we see her accountant, and her accountant, I don't know why he has a yacht and a Ferrari, but he only has one client. You get what I'm trying to say? So they would just, again, you think you're an artist with a lot of money, then who's poking their holes, who's poking holes in your wallet and taking a little bit out, you know? The fact that her father was stealing from her and sued her for $100 million, that's fucking crazy.
It's fucked up.
It's fucked up. He's a piece of shit for that. With all respect to, I don't know, her dad or anything like that. This upset her so much to the point when when her father was dying, she didn't go to the funeral.
Damn.
Yeah, she actually went the day before to say personal goodbyes. She just said, I didn't want the cameras on me and this and that. But when he was dying in the hospital and they called her, like, come, your dad is dying. She said she was on the way, but she never showed up. So that's just crazy. Like, what demons was she dealing with? This and that. One of the most craziest things about the whole situation with Whitney Houston is that, well, there's two things, right? One, she had a friend called Robin, right? This person, Robin, was very close to her, and a lot of people speculated that they had like a relationship together. Robin is a woman, so but they didn't outright say it, but they pretty much really refer, like they were like she had an intimate relationship with this person named Robin, right?
Okay.
Now, one of the craziest things is that, and this happened. This is revealed later on late in the documentary, but Whitney Houston had gotten molested when she was younger.
Damn.
So did two of her other siblings. Her brother got molested by a female, and so did her sister. Apparently, and the crazy thing is that this lady is shown in the beginning documentary singing with her mother. There's a lady who was her aunt called Dee Warwick. So basically, she got molested by her aunt.
Man, yeah. Wow.
And she didn't tell nobody, but she finally told her sister or somebody. So that was just like, out of everything she has dealt with to this point, like the divorce and this and growing up in a rough neighborhood and just like doing drugs. And she was exposed to drugs when she was like 16 by her brother. Like just cocaine, or a friend of her brother, like cocaine and marijuana. But they all kind of just did it together. But that was the craziest thing on top of everything already, Yeah. And it's sad. So Robin Crawford was the lady that supposedly they had a relationship with before she got married to Bobby Brown. And I mean, one of the brothers didn't like Robin at all. He was like, I try to keep her away from her, this and that, blah, blah, blah. I don't know why. There's a comedian called Joey Diaz, right? Who he's on Joe Rogan a lot and this and that. But he used to do a lot of like illegal stuff. And he actually sold cocaine to Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown. He would make $1,100. He would get paid $1,100 a week to give him an 8-ball of coke, which is 3.5 grams. And she was just blowing money on cocaine. Like, I was gonna listen to the rest of that story, but that's pretty much the gist of it. This and that. Joy D's is a very funny comedian. And even to a point where she was going back on like tour and stuff, or creating an album, they would spend like $5 million overall, or even more. And out of like the 30, 60 days that they were supposed to make music, or 90 days, they made like a couple songs only, because she was just getting fucked up off that money.
Man.
Yeah. And yeah. So when she was younger and they talked about cocaine and stuff with Robin, she would say, Whitney Houston would say, cocaine can't go where we're going, when her career was taking off. So she didn't want to continue this when her career was going off.
Okay.
But apparently from Robin herself saying, Houston was also worn down by the demand supporting an extended family, an exhausting tour schedule, the constant speculations about her sexuality, and a drug addiction that was spiraling out of control. So then again, when she's been constantly like doing drugs and coke and marijuana and drinking, she performed Michael Jackson. As soon as she got on stage, everybody saw how bad she looked. I showed you earlier how bad she looked on stage.
That was that video?
That's the, yeah. And Michael Jackson sitting in front row, you could just see it in the video. We'll put a picture up in the supplementary and the video here on YouTube. But you could just look it up though. Michael Jackson performance Whitney Houston. You could see how bad of a state she was in, how thin she was. And so she had an interview with the person called Diane Sawyer. And Diane Sawyer was like, what is the demon in your life right now? Like, what is it? And she's like, well, I've done marijuana and drug and something else, pills and this and that. And but Whitney Houston was very insistent on this. She says, but I didn't do crack. I don't do crack. Crack is a cheap drug. And she said that very insistently. And how Diane Sawyer said, so what is the biggest demon? Like, what is the devil? And then she looks up and she's like, the devil is me. Like, Whitney Houston says that and smiling, And then there's just this part of the documentary. I can't show it here, but it goes to show how the media really picked on her. Almost to a point in American Dad. It's a video. It's a little snippet, like skit of her walking into the doorway with the family. And she's like all kind of, disheveled in appearance. And she's like, oh, like, sing. And she starts singing. And then the American Dad guy slaps her with a bag of cocaine. I'm like, and kind of just drags her out. Like, I mean, it's funny, like, if it's, when you get the reference in this and that, but it's like that, like, when they show that and other things, it's like, I think one of her family members was saying, like, do you not know who you're talking about? Like, Whitney Houston, the best singer like, ever, like, woman, this and that. And how quick we are to just break down a person when they're down. Now, I don't think we do it as much, but there's this like really terrible series, like Britney Spears or some shit like that, where you look at these people and we just drive them crazy. You know? And I got a little more, but she died on February 11th, 2012 at the age of 48. She was found in her bathtub at Beverly Hills before a party. It was ruled an accidental drowning alongside heart disease and cocaine that were contributing factors. I even heard Joey Diaz said that like she got boiled alive by the hot tub and this and that. That's like, maybe not. But that'd
be pretty wild.
Yeah. I mean, but it was like I don't know. But also when I think her sister, she was with Whitney Houston and she had left for 30 minutes and came back. And when she opened the door, water was to her ankle. So that's how much water got into the hotel room.
Shit.
Yeah. It's crazy, bro, because let's see. She was performing again. And before that, her daughter had slit her wrists also. So before Whitney Houston died, let's backtrack a little. Her daughter, Bobby Christina, who again was neglected heavily. She never got to grow up like a child. Like she was only with adults. She developed a cocaine habit and did other drugs as well. She ended up slitting her wrist and was in the hospital. She hated her mother so much. She even said, I wish I could find a way to kill her without anybody knowing. That's what she survived slitting her wrist. So after that happened, Whitney Houston decided she was going to go to rehab, right? And she had been doing really well, but she couldn't do it anymore because she had no more money left. So mind you, the lady who got the biggest contract in artist history had no money.
Damn.
That's fucking crazy, bro. It's crazy sad. Like, it's not just like, oh, she just fucked up. Like, she really got fucked over by so many people, especially her husband, Bobby Brown, you know, who, like, just because he was jealous couldn't let her exist, you know? And so that's when she started performing again, you know, to make money and stuff like that. And that's the performance I show you after the Star Spangled Banner, where her voice is just terribly raspy. Like, it's as if I sang I Will Always Love You on stage. You know, not that I sang bad or nothing, but it's not Whitney Houston. And if you look up the video, it's pretty terrible. Like, she's like, and like, you know, like,
I couldn't tell if it was like an audio issue at first because since it was an older video, but I was like, it's 2010. It couldn't be that bad.
People in the documentary were saying, like, they walked out of the concert. They were like, it was terrible. They were like, this is not worth $165. They said she couldn't entertain a dead rat and this and that. And people definitely stayed and cheered regardless. And you could see Whitney Houston was trying. It's not like she wasn't, you know, trying to protect her name. And so after that, she did a movie, which was kind of an homage to like a show she would watch on TV when she was younger, like involving the church. And she finally like was doing well. Like, she was cooperating with the rehab. Like, every week she had to get a drug test. Okay. But she was finally looking like herself again, like enjoying time with the cast, like celebrating with them. She even went out to like a football game or baseball game with them. Everything was going really good. And everybody was looking at her like, oh, this is Whitney Houston. And the movie came out and everything was great until the last day, where like the set had to disperse and the movie was done being shot. Apparently she had stayed in the area, and what they speculate is that this movie was kind of her finally being happy and like being surrounded by a supportive group of people, and that when it was over, she felt that it was like nothing else outside of that.
Okay.
So that's why, falling shortly, she ended up dying in the hotel room in her bathtub with her face down in the water, drowning. Oh man. The crazier thing is that in January 2015, her child, Bobby Christina Brown, was found unconscious in a bathtub at her home in Atlanta, and she died in July.
Man.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, that's just sad as fuck. And I think of there's a poet who's, I think it's Anne Sexton, it might not be her, who stuck her head in the oven, like as a way to kill herself, you know?
Yeah, that sounds so familiar. Yeah. I think I've heard of that.
And it's because she would write poems, and this is I forget what it's called again, but when you write about your own sadness and stuff like that, like back then it was like, why are you doing that shit, you pussy? You know? And then like her daughter also killed herself by sticking her head in the oven as well. So you just think of those two things, and her daughter dying in a bathtub when she died in a tub. It's just ridiculous. But she was never really that happy, so they say, you know? So during her life, she contributed to charities and supporting AIDS research, black colleges, and veterans. And in 1989, she formed the Whitney Houston Foundation for Children. Her husband, Bobby Brown, was so jealous of her that when they were making movies, they were supposed to call it Houston Productions, but then they ended up changing it to like Brown Productions. Like instead of Whitney Houston, it was like Brown.
Why? Just because
this guy was a jealous motherfucker, man. Yeah, they ended up getting divorced, but he was very, very, like, he was nothing compared to Whitney Houston. Like, he was huge himself, and he even said himself that he was conceited when he was younger. But that after a while, Whitney Houston's fame was so crazy that he was just kind of a +1 to her as an entirety. You get me? So, I mean,
what a child.
Super trash bag. And he has his own show now too. And the crazier thing is, mind you, like, they would do drugs together a lot, right? And even the Joey Diaz guy said he was so like an 8-ball to them. And in the documentary, they asked Bobby Brown, they're like, so with Whitney Houston leading up to her drug abuse and death, he's like, I'm not talking about that. Like, I'm not gonna talk about Whitney Houston and drugs. Like, and he was, the interviewer says, well, it's going to be kind of hard not to talk about Whitney Houston when the last years of her life really had a lot to do with that. He's like, I thought we just discussed her life. There's a lot of hostility there. Mm-hmm. But all the other people, like the relatives and sisters and the brothers, they were all kind of like talking about it regularly, like really openly too. Like, they didn't hide the fact that she did drugs. They were very open about it. And there were some hostile moments, you know, this and that. But for the most part, they seemed like they were telling the absolute truth. And at one point they asked like the sister, they said, do you think that Whitney Houston like knew herself, like was, you know, and she was like, not at all. She was like, she knew what was expected of her as a performer, you know, like she knew how to turn it on and off, but she never really got to find herself overall in all aspects. And I mean, it's just a tragedy. It is a tragedy.
It's
because,
really sad.
Yeah, seriously, bro. Like I was watching that documentary, I was like, holy shit. Because at the end, like they kind of break up those hits that you see are so happy, and they isolate the vocals. So it's kind of just her singing, and in the middle of her performance, it's like this little, like kind of like Dark Side is, like this glitch, like I hold like no, like that. And then it's just her like what was happening in the state of time, like the racism happening and her tragedy and within it. And so that's why I think about like the whole fame thing with Michael Jackson, how like she would spend time with him and not say anything to him. They would just spend time with each other's presence because like how much they were relevant to one another and how much people don't know what that is. And of course, like Michael Jackson is still probably the hugest. I just didn't know that Whitney Houston was this big, like in terms of like discology and all that stuff and all that stuff, you know. But also like demons, bro. Like,
I never knew about her backstory like that, so
yeah, bro.
you know it is tragic.
Facts. And yeah, I mean, other than that, like her album in itself is really like just again, I think it's a 46 minutes long or 54 seconds. But that's pretty much the gist of Whitney Houston without like, you know, the present episode today. But yeah, now we get to the album and stuff. And but what do you think about all that in general? Like, how do you think that, like, how often is that the case for like major stars like this? I'm pretty sure it's often as fuck now. Yeah.
I mean, we were already kind of talking about like the struggles of fame before we started filming today because of a band that I know of. So it's just, you know, and my brother wants to have a conversation about this on the podcast. So it's like, it's really an interesting topic with a lot behind it. And there are a lot of people that are sort of examples of the difficulties of fame.
Yeah.
But I just can't believe that like she had such a bad drug habit the way she did and things like that. Yeah. And it really makes me think of like, you know, when you are famous and you are rich, you just have so much access to those kinds of things. Yeah. It's like when you reach a certain fame or like fortune, it's like those boundaries are just gone.
Yeah.
And you can just kind of do whatever you want.
You can get away with it, whatever you want to. And I think it's just, that's why I like the Mac Miller line that I brought up that day when your brother asked about the fame thing in the podcast. And that Mac Miller says like the A-list can't be trusted. You know, that's like a line he says in the song. And I'm like, damn, bro, like I take that as just, because motherfuckers are doing crazy shit out there with crazy amounts of money. I mean, that seeps into like basically illegal stuff, like young rappers who go into strip clubs being underage, right? What else does that lead to? Like paying for money for like sex or something, which is like prostitution, right? And then you have drugs and handling of that. Then you have like just a bunch of weird stuff, you know, and then what are you exposed to, you know? And it's just weird. Like a lot of rappers are getting arrested right now. Like there's like a Young Thug or all these people, they're getting arrested for this and that, for like committing crimes supposedly, whatever. Like I don't really keep up with that. I just know of it. But it's just, what are they exposed to? How old are they? The people they're influencing. And who knows, bro? Who knows? But it's just a weird thing. Like even the Juice WRLD guy, like, you know, this and that about his music, whatever. But he died because...
Calm down, Chino. Calm down.
But he died because he had access to all those pills being put in his bag, you know, and he'd rather have not gone to jail, which is what we were saying earlier, right? Like what is... I don't know if that's the entire case, but he probably didn't want to get caught with those things.
Yeah, you know? that's kind of what the story was, yeah.
That's what I think this is invincibility kind of... What's the word? Not concept. What's the... Like... You develop an invincibility.
It's a delusion.
Kind of, pretty much a delusion. And I feel, that's what I feel when I think of her. I just think that she was doing so much drugs that she felt unstoppable. Like she's Whitney Houston, you know? Like she's on top of the world.
Yeah, I mean, how else are you going to think about it when you're at that level? Yeah.
So when she died in the tub, like who knows if that was like just, you know, what happened? Because she was, remember the lady was gone for 30 minutes that was with her. And
we don't know if it's a suicide or not.
Yeah. And some people are saying that she was drunk and she just fell asleep, or maybe she did coke and this and that. That's what I heard about the thing, that she was drunk and fell asleep. But I mean, it's just sad. I mean, when she died, it was just incredible, man, because like people just popping out just for her funeral and stuff. And I mean, I don't know. But to me, I mean, it just kind of takes the cake for Whitney Houston, like the album overall, because when you jump into the album, like I have here, like it really starts with like an 80s. I mean, not after the first song. What's the first song again? Give me.
You did. You give good love.
You give good love.
I'll just say. I'll paint a little picture. Here I was in my apartment, getting ready to listen to the album for the first time. I was gonna play it on my computer, so I had the speakers all set up and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm getting my grinder, getting my bong ready. I'm like, I'm gonna just chill out, listen to this album.
Yeah.
And this song comes on, You Give Good Love, and just the beat to it, the way it just rolls in.
Yeah.
I just felt so at ease, just grinding my weed.
Hell yeah,
I put in my bong. I took a nice hit, and I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Whitney Houston, I mean, bro, I saw the real 80s, like ding 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 ding, all that shit. Which I don't hate at all. It's still a jam, it's still like a mood for that specific, But when her voice comes in all silky smooth coming in and stuff like that, again, I think the first 3 songs are just this platter of like, you're about to get all this and a little more. And so yeah, the first song is a more delicate song. It's love. And the second song is more poppy, right? It's more like 80s and this and that. And what was the third one again? Because I don't have the track list for you.
So, the second one is Thinking About You. And then the third track is Someone For Me.
Someone For Me. One thing I do have here is that, I'm trying to get the lyrics and stuff for the song.
For Someone For Me?
Yeah. Let's see. I got you right now.
Something I thought about too is that like listening to this, because like since I don't really listen to a lot of pop or R&B and things like that, because I feel like lyrically this is I mean I'm just gonna retract that statement. I'm gonna say that this album is very poppy in a lot of ways, and because of that, that's why I was able to like remember the names of the songs.
Okay,
because like pop, it's all the choruses.
It just says that.
Just that. Yeah. Like sometimes, like when I was listening to the album for the first time, I'd be like, "What's the name of this song?" And then she'd just be like, "Someone For Me."
Oh, there you go.
Oh, okay. Man, it's that. Got it.
No, that's right. And then, and the third, I also want to say that, I said that she sounds very Ghostbusters when she reaches the 80s. Yeah. Like when I think of all the 80s songs in there, it's just mad Ghostbusters. But I wrote Butter. Her voice is like butter, but so fluid that it fits the groove with the love song singer's approach. I think it's perfect for mixing. I think the next album after that is just, or this like rendition is just techno beats over it, or just remixed a lot. Okay. Because it's very doable with her music. And after that song is which one? That's the next one I need, and then I have the rest.
Saving All My Love For You, which is a really good song. I really like this one.
Yeah.
Just, watching her sing the Star Spangled Banner, she looks so effortless when she sings.
That's what it is, man.
And so when I hear her stretch out those notes where she just goes, "You,"
yeah, man,
I'm just like, damn, oh my God. Like,
and it's flawless, man.
It goes on for so long. Like I really was listening to it. I'm like, she's still going. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Saving All My Love For You is a good one.
Yeah. And she just has like really romantic lyrics. It's more so just like right here. She said, "You used to tell me we'd run away together. Love gives you the right to be free. You said you'd be patient, just wait a little longer, but that's just an old fantasy." And what I saw earlier in I forgot what I was just looking at, but she didn't write all her songs. Apparently a lot of her songs she didn't write herself, that she just executed them so perfectly. And I mean, I think of Elton John and whoever wrote his music. I know it's a counterpart that he has. Like he couldn't write good lyrics. Yeah. So the other guy just said, "I got you, bro." And then Rocket Man.
You still gotta watch that movie.
I know,
man. It's a good one.
I hear nothing but good things. I gotta see him live in person though first. Fucking guap.
I bet.
Guap. Okay, so now we get to Saving All My Love For You, right?
Yeah.
Also, people who have sampled Whitney Houston, I thought the list would be much bigger, but from the names I got that people who are listening now probably know is Drake, The Game, and French Montana. Then we got like a couple other people. I'm not gonna write that list. I don't really care. The Game though. I like Saving All My Love For You. To me, it sounds like a Christmas song, right? But it is an incredibly catchy, again, and cozy song.
Yeah,
right? It's a very, very cozy song, and Oh shit! No, I'm an idiot. Looking at the same song earlier.
Yeah, I was like, when you said now we're on to Saving All My Love For You, I was like, we've been talking about that song, Frankie.
Well, that's the song I was talking about. To me, I really like that song a lot, and I know it's a hit, but to me, it sounds like a Christmas song for some reason. And then we get to Nobody Loves Me Like You Do.
Yeah, this song, this is the one that has
Jermaine Jackson.
Jermaine Jackson. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's also on 2 other songs in this album.
Yeah, I think one other, and the last one is a different person.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this song, if I can find the lyrics, oh yeah, what if I never met you? Where would I be right now? It's just like the way they say it, and like it's so simple. It's not even like super poetic or anything, but it's just kind of like
sweet. You know?
Yeah, it's just like, you know, we've definitely have all kind of like thought that before about like our significant others and whatever. So it's just, I really like those lines. But I think this is the first time I've listened to Jermaine Jackson.
Yeah,
so
probably me too, to be honest with you.
So it was interesting, sort of listening to him. He's got a pretty good voice too, but definitely just not as good as Whitney's.
Not as good, bro. Not as. I mean, I think of the Lady Gaga Bradley Cooper shit. I think Bradley Cooper's ass, bro, compared to Lady Gaga.
You want to hear my impression of him in that movie?
Let me see. And what does Lady Gaga say? I forgot the lyrics.
I always made a joke of from the trailer, especially where it's that scene where it's like he rolls the window down and he's like, "Hey," and she turns back and she's like, "What?" And he's like, "I just want to get one last look at you." He said,
"I just want to get one last look at you,"
because he just has like he's trying to do that southern drawl in that movie, so he just sounds like he's fucking swallowing a bottle of molasses when he's speaking.
Fuck you, Bradley Cooper. Just kidding.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy. Even though he produced Joker, but you know, we're not going to talk about that.
I don't know if he produced. Did he also do the voice for the raccoon?
Rocket Raccoon.
Rocket Raccoon. Right. I saw that movie recently, and I showed Beatrice the voiceover stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Vin Diesel got paid a shitload of money to do Groot's voice.
I mean, yeah, why wouldn't he? He's Vin Diesel.
And he had facts. And he had to do it in different languages, like yo soy Groot. Mm-hmm. Like we watched the video of him doing it. Apparently, I don't know how true this is. Apparently, doing Groot helped them get over Paul Walker's death.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, right. Some random shit because he got all that money. Shit. With the Nobody Loves Me Like You Do. I do like what I wrote here. I wrote intensity grows here with such a theatrical duet that increases dramatically. But then I also write that the use of instruments is very intense, but the voices are so good, more so Whitney Houston, that it seems like the instruments have to catch up or keep up with the voices. So I feel that like the instruments were great doing their job, but it felt like they were usually the instruments are the coding for the voices and stuff. But I feel like especially with Whitney Houston, her voice is just everything, and then everybody just working around it. Like even Jermaine Jackson, like you're kind of just a segment, not really. The star here is Whitney Houston. Yeah, and we all know it. Damn, she sang so good, bro.
Yeah, she does.
And then we get to ding, 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 ding. How will I know? Yeah, bro, I've heard that song too many times.
You know, I never knew that this song came from her first album.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, oh, wow. Like, one of her best songs is from her first album.
Absolutely. Best. And even one of the Greatest Love of All, that one is also a huge hit. But this one, everybody knows in their mom. And even when we worked, we always hear it, you know, always. I was like, God damn, bro, I'm tired of this shit. And right here in my notes, I wrote debriefing because I've heard this song 6 million times. But there is also this feel and charisma in this song that displays how many occasions you can play Whitney Houston's music. Meaning that like not only this song can you play like at a festive occasion, but her other songs I wrote you can play at a party, a movie, a love scene, a fancy restaurant, or more importantly, just to listen. I wrote real music. And it's true. Like I just think that
the fact that she made a movie soundtrack, you know, speaks to that.
Hell yeah, bro. And again, so effortlessly. So when I think of like this song, like again in the documentary, they played this at the end before like another performance, but they isolate the vocals again. And when they do it, it's just like you really just hear what she added on to the beats, to the sounds, to everything. It's just not real.
I could only imagine the job of her producer. Like, oh my God. How like I wonder if that was like an easy thing or not, because it's like because in on one hand it's like it's Whitney Houston, so you know she's gonna kill it.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's Whitney Houston. She's dealing with a lot of shit, so it's like I wonder how difficult or easy of a job that was for her producer.
I think they just rolled the gravy train till the gravy train said goodbye. to be honest, I don't know. It was interesting to see how much care she was getting despite her living her own recklessness. But I mean, one good point they made during everything, when she went to go to the interview after her performance with Michael Jackson, one of her like either family members or crew members, they were like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we getting her on this show to talk about this when we could just get her to just be better? Mm-hmm. Like, we don't want more music, we just want her to get better. But it's kind of like squeeze them dry and then kind of let them loose. But it's true. It's true. Like, why are you gonna make her go on national television and talk about herself and her drug problems? Like, who does that help and address?
That's not therapy.
Nah, not that. That's the opposite of therapy. That's therapy.
That's urine dip. Huh? That's urine dip.
I was like, what the fuck? But you're right. That's urine dip. Then we get to All at Once. This song is a ballad. Do you know what a ballad is?
A ballad? Nah.
It's a poem or a song narrating a story in short stanzas.
Okay.
Thanks, Google. And I thought this song was really heartfelt. I really, at the end of my notes, I wrote, shit, this song is sad as fuck. And it says, like one of the lines, I'm drifting on a lonely sea, holding on to memories, and it's hurt me more than you know, so much more than it shows, all at once. And I feel like that just speaks on a lot of levels to anybody hurting. Like, you don't see her on a human being, especially her. Mm-hmm. You don't see what she's going through when she's on stage performing like a beast. You just see like just this, even though in this case she's talking about somebody else, like a person that she's in love with being with somebody else, right?
When I first heard this, I wasn't really sold by it at first because it was like, since it's like one of the slower songs or whatever, I was kind of like, okay. But like definitely like looking at the lyrics, I was like, oh man, this song that actually kind of hurts.
Yeah, bro. Like when she says, all at once I looked around and found that you were within my love in someone else's arms, and all my dreams are shattered all at once. All at once, the smile that used to greet me brightened someone else's day. She took your smile away and left me with just memories all at once. That's when I wrote, shit, this song is sad as fuck.
When you were about to read those, I looked at those same lyrics because those are the lyrics that definitely stuck out to me too.
And then when you hear her sing it, it just kind of breaks your heart. You're just like, damn, bro, like, damn, Whitney Houston, just come back. Then we get the next song, Take Good Care of My Heart, also featuring Jermaine Jackson. And I mean, to me, I like when she says, love can strike like lightning when you find your heart at home. I think he or she said that, one of them.
I also wasn't too crazy about this song.
This is
because like it, I thought Jermaine Jackson was fine in the first one in his first feature, but it's not like
get out of here, Jermaine Jackson.
He's still just kind of mid. Like,
honestly, the way they described the song and I think Billboard, they were like, this is a duet that truly never takes off. There never is this true crescendo that should be, and it's pretty much just saying like Whitney Houston killed it, and then Jermaine Jackson is just Jermaine Jackson.
There wasn't too much working for me with this song. This song is really just like a thumbs up for me, and just
like that's a part of it. Get out of here, Jermaine Jackson. Get the fuck out of here. And then we have Greatest Love of All, which I like this song. I just like the beginning lyrics when she says, I believe the children are our future. Sounds familiar to Michael Jackson. Mm-hmm. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. And then everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone who fulfilled my needs, a lonely place to be. And so I learned to depend on me. So even if she's not writing these lyrics, like you can just tell a lot about her own self here. Yeah. And it's just sad, man, because the tragedy about Michael Jackson is what? He never had a childhood. You know? I mean, to what extent did Whitney Houston not have a regular life? From what point of age, And those lyrics are always gonna be so powerful.
I mean, definitely like you would have to also think that like her lyricist has to know her. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm sure they know like the things that she struggles
That's
with.
true.
So it's like, it makes me curious of like if these songs, because I think Rihanna also gets like songs written for her and whatever the case
Okay.
is. So it's like, I would imagine these songs are written for them. It's like this,
Yeah.
even though I wrote it, this song is for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they can be so personal still.
Mm-hmm. And then the way she just expresses it is fucking Jesus Christ. I'm really happy I saw the documentary before I came here because I just feel like that was just a bunch of information I had no idea. But sad as fuck, man. And then we get to Hold Me, which is the last song.
Oof.
Right?
Ooh, yes.
And then that's featuring Teddy Pendergrass.
Okay.
So that's he didn't do as good either.
This song is a fuck song.
Well, it's funny you say that because this is the longest track on the album.
Yeah, man. It's like that for a reason.
It's that clap them cheeks.
It's that perfect 6 minutes for a quickie.
Whitney Houston knew what she was doing. She was like, all right. No, definitely, yeah. I mean, even I'll hold you and touch you and make you my woman and give you my love with sweet surrender. Woo! Damn, Pendergrass.
Oh, my stars.
With your fat and church hat. I was like, oh, my stars. That's not funny. But yeah, that's pretty much the album. And again, I mean, for the lack there is of, mentioning, because, it really is more metaphorical lyrics and just kind of like romance in the air. But the true star of the album is the voice of Whitney Houston.
Mm.
From here, just off Wikipedia, I guess something, the most reliable source on the internet. The album top albums charts in many countries, including Canada, Australia, Norway, Sweden, and peaking at a number 2 in the United Kingdom, Germany, and Switzerland. It was certified diamond for shipments of 10 million units or more on March 16th, 1999, which is like 14 years later. Later, 13 times platinum in July 29th, 1999. And yeah, it's one of the best-selling albums of all time. I mean, she got nominations for Album of the Year, Best Pop Vocal Performance for a Female, Jesus Christ, just more Grammy Awards, a Record of the Year, and on Rolling Stone's magazine list of 500 greatest albums of all times in all 3 editions. I mean, Jesus Christ. And then there is a anniversary edition, a deluxe anniversary edition.
Okay.
It's the 25th anniversary of her death, which is February 11th, if I'm not mistaken.
I
2012.
I think too of just kind of like, again, I don't really listen to pop or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So lyrically, I never considered how deep any of these lyrics could be.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I feel like for me, there's still just kind of that issue with pop where it's just like the chorus or whatever just gets like repeated too much. It's like, I want more of those deep lyrics.
Yeah.
It's like, keep going with that. I want more of that.
I agree. And I think that's why for me, Whitney Houston in general, like I lean more towards the stuff where she's singing, and the pop stuff I kind of get tired of because a lot of them are overplayed. But forever, I've known people at any age in my life that they love I Want to Dance with Somebody. Like I remember somebody when I was younger, she would say, oh, I love that song. I want to dance with somebody, that song, and they reference it. But when you think about what she comes out in the future, especially with I Will Always Love You, which is part of the Bodyguard soundtrack, I don't know. I mean, just all those songs and just the more songs she has, like I think later on she does kind of go into that, but definitely pop was a big factor for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that, I mean, what a fucking revolutionary lady,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. And yeah, bro, I mean, that's a little Whitney Houston history. Oh, shit, WHH. And yeah, bro, I mean, so what's up, Javi? What's going on?
Man, when you said WHH, I don't know why, but I thought you said WWH, and I was like, World War Hulk?
Where you at, World War Hulk?
There's my nerd ass trying to fucking make connections that aren't there.
Cocaine lady. In the Marvel Universe. But
remember from Smiling Friends, the fucking the fucking crackhead dude.
Yeah.
Hey man, come on man, it makes me so mad, man. I get so angry, man.
His hand turns to guns.
So dumb.
Funny. Hey man, come on man. But make sure to follow us on the social.
Make sure to follow us on the social, guys.
If you listen to this long, Earth Mind Matter Pod, YouTube Earth Mind Matter, TikTok Earth Mind Matter Pod. Our social security numbers are 573-86.
Finish yours.
705.
I don't know why you looked at me. Now I'll say mine. Thank you very much. 776-428.
Nice. That's it.
Yeah.
You got the OG social security number?
I am the social security number.
Oh. Wow. Just found out something new.
Well, Frankie, what did we do today?
Yo, this was happening on the earth.
In our minds.
This is why it matters. This is Earth, Mind, and Matter.
Welcome to the show.
Good morning, good evening, good night. I'll see you later, Utah.
Ooh.
All right.